It's gonna be like a short one. Like I'm gonna do like a 2-3 hour stream tops because I'm so fucking tired from work. Holy.
Yeah, I'll be getting off soon anyways. Or not soon, but you know, like I'll be staying the entire time.
No, yeah, obviously, yeah. Let's look at my goat Goyam Epstein.
No.
Oh shit. I want to do a summoner slash this thing's terrifying. A summoner slash warrior build. Just to get the best of both worlds, because I haven't played summoner in a while.
Yep.
But I forget how long it takes to get your first summoner weapon in Ferrari.
Yeah, summoners are very good, like mid to late game class, because you have to like get a decent amount of good shit. Because it is like the AFK class. So like in the ironically in the other game, a lot of the mobs are pretty hard for you to take out when you're just playing summoner.
Yeah. Oh my fucking god. Fuck off. I forget. It's been so long since I fought the Eye of Cthulhu like on like an even battle, so I forget how many like the fucking moves it has.
Yeah.
This thing's not fun. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. I'm nearly dead. Please! Oh, I'm so awesome. I'm so good at this fucking game. Holy shit, it wasn't even close.
And welcome to 30 with me, Guy and Espinal. We do 30 minutes with one guest and no cut, so what we record is what you get. America pummeled
Shield of Cthulhu, yeah. Oh, yeah, because I'm doing it on I'm playing the game on
hard mode or whatever.
Expert mode.
Oh, got you. Okay.
So you get new drops and stuff, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, because I remember the Shield of Cthulhu. That's why I kept grinding it, but maybe it was like an expert drop. But I remember I got it in a world where I played in normal mode, so I don't know. Maybe it's just a rare drop or whatever.
Or regime change that Donald Trump had wanted, Russia thought they could take Ukraine in weeks and are still fighting 4 years on. What does this tell us about conflict in the mid-2020s, and what lessons are there for the West as it frets about the rise of China? Our guest today is American Brigadier General David Stilwell. He spent 35 years in the US Air Force. He was defense attaché at the US Embassy in Beijing, and then assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs in Donald Trump's first term, the top US diplomat for Asia. He's currently visiting New Zealand, so let's start the clock. 30 minutes with Brigadier General David Stilwell.
Okay, they're both out there. How much money do I have? That's another thing. I have enough. I have enough. That's all that matters.
Brigadier General David Stilwell, welcome to 30.
But there's a few different things you can get in expert mode, which I was missing out on doing, so I decided to do this one.
Fair enough. Oh.
But yeah, like obviously everything becomes harder in expert mode, but there's some other stuff as well, like some of the rarer drops become more frequent. Some new drops get unlocked at all, I think. There's a few other things, but I can't remember what they are at the moment.
When we play, I wanted to ask you, so when we play, actually there's two things I want to ask you. First of all, when do you think you're going to be able to play Calamity? Like Southland Calamity?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll have to think about it.
Alright, second thing
probably like I'll give it a bit before I do it again.
Okay. Like just give me like a rough time frame. Like you don't even be specific.
Like in the next like 3 months, I can do it.
Oh damn! Okay. Fair enough. I was gonna play Black Flag Resync to death when it came out, anyways. So I was planning to do that basically until the end of July.
Yeah.
It's fine. We can probably do some like other stuff in between. If you want to like do something, but yeah, okay. So what you're thinking about August, September, basically?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, no problem. We can figure it out then.
Greetings from Hawaii.
Thank you very much. Look, you have immense military experience, as we touched on in the introduction.
I've got three on the left side of my map. I have 3 separate corruption areas. It's so fucked. Like I've never seen it do that before. It does mean that it's really easy to What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna get on my
as
other
you'd expect, I
character
would say
and
neither,
like
but I would tell you
cleanse
that
like some of the stuff beforehand because
we've
I
dealt with Iran
fucking
for a
hate
long
like dealing
time.
with
I dealt
corruption
with Iran a
post
lot in the 90s
hard
when I was,
mode.
flying over
Yeah.
Iraq doing
So I'm gonna try and get.
Operation Southern
I
Watch.
just
They've been doing this,
fuck.
sponsoring terror for a long time.
Oh
So I
my
sort of
god.
summarize the current era with the thought
Anyway.
that the assumption is that taking action.
Yeah, I hate dealing with corruption because I want to get. I want to get the achievement for like the perfect world.
Oh yeah.
Can't believe I just died there. That's 4 deaths already. I've actually got a little graveyard I'm setting aside where I'm just gonna mark all the deaths. So far I've got death by trap, death by boulder, and death by gang stalking.
Okay.
Like I went mining and I just like dropped into a hole and there was like 10 salamanders just waiting for me. I was like, okay, I don't want to live anyway. Oh, scheiße. Playing Fortnite und trink Cola. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. My name is Andrew Dingus. Oh, shittings. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, I'm back.
All right.
Oh, hey Simon, how's it going? Anyways, yeah, sorry. What were we saying?
Who?
You.
No, I'm just trying to do achievement runs on this world now. So
All right.
I bring in my other character to help with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think check out the new Roy Morgan poll because I've forgotten the exact data about it, but I'm mighty confused by its results. Like it's been known to get it wrong for a while. Like it pulls from like 1,000 people or something. It's just I don't know.
Every person from Ponsonby.
Well, that's the thing. I'm curious about these political polls because I've just never been asked one in my life, and I know that that's not like uncommon, but I'm so curious.
Is risky,
So
and
curious.
inaction comes with no risk.
How
I
many
challenge that
liberals does it
assumption.
take to change
Dude,
the
a
light
light
Sit
bulb?
back and watch Iran, who has
Too
stated
many.
clearly they
They're
want a
too
nuclear
busy.
program.
They're
There's a
genuine.
government that is constantly chanting death to America, death to Israel. You eventually get to a point where the risk of inaction exceeds the risk of taking action. And that's where we ended up when we decided to look at regime change there. But we didn't get regime change, did we? We got the hardline son of Khomeini who was killed. And in terms of nuclear ambitions, well, that's been kicked off to this sort of 60-day negotiating period. So what was the good bit? I mean, what did we actually achieve? So
Never
I
have
can't
to do
speak
this
for the
run
current
back again.
administration, but I know the thought.
Oh, fuck my belly. Men between over 50, Labour only has 14% support, and behind them third. What do you mean by that? As in, like men like who are like 50 and above are 14% supporting Labour. Is that what you're saying? Because I would think like with older men, it probably shouldn't be that low. No. Hey, Puffik, how's it going? Dude, like, fuck my life. I'm so tired.
Yeah, streaming life's hard, you know. You gotta like wake up,
Yeah.
not shower, not shit, forget to put on deodorant.
It's just so awesome because like to do the stream stuff, especially doing the politics stuff, dude. Like when you're doing stream stuff like full time, obviously you don't have the drag of a real life. So you're actually, ironically enough, you're like disengaged from actual politics, but you get to like actually like cover politics, which is the most toxic like feedback loop. And I'm thinking about a sentence someone here, you know what I'm thinking about. Only Labour 14 support among men who are over 50, and they're third place behind the ACT Party. Okay. According to according to the Roy Morgan poll. Okay. I will say, because, you know, my mate brought it up, and I'm pretty much at the same disposition of like, right now, I wouldn't really trust that poll because what it looks like is that you're just having intra-party fighting. So that Labour, ACT, and Party Māori are all like trying to fight for the same voter base, and National ACT and Indus First are all fighting for the same voter base. I don't think I've met like a decent amount of older men, and it is like it's not a toss-up, but it's like 1 in every 4 people tend to be like, oh yeah, I hate the National Party over Labour voter. One of the two. Because like if you're an old guy with like a business or like you had a trade and you retired middle class, they tend to be national voters. But like most old people I've met are like pretty Labour sympathizers.
Process in the previous, when I was there, is paralysis by analysis, which is what I experienced when I was in the Pentagon before the Trump administration, is waiting for the perfect solution to come means you're never going to do anything. And now you're a victim of circumstance. You've allowed yourself to just be carried along by circumstance into who knows what, where you're going to end up. Whereas, if you understand that by taking action, you can then deal with the outcomes, knowing that you're in a process where people with good ideas are going to make good suggestions, then you're generally better off. And I think we accomplished that in the first Trump administration. Obviously,
what I'll never get is these military people who are like, because there's this guy who's on Guy and Epsina's thing, and what's his name? Former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State David Stilwell. What I can never understand is these people defending Trump's actions, because like every U.S. president got the same pitch by Bibi, and they all called him gay, retarded, and cringe for even like suggesting that, and told him like to do his own thing. And Trump was the only guy retarded enough to fall into the pitfall. I just don't get it, bro.
remains to be seen in this one, but the thought process is we can all sit by and wait for a nuclear armed Iran with intermediate or long-range missiles. But are we worse off or better off right now? I think most would say nothing's changed.
Well, do you think we are better off after the Iran war and all the economic consequences and the loss of life that was incurred by that battle? Are we better off?
Well, we can speak tactically, and then we can speak strategically. Tactically, we're definitely better off. We've taken out a whole bunch of their weaponry that was being used to attack Israel. If you remember, after Operation Midnight Hammer, they sent everything they had at Israel. We, in cooperation with Israel and others, spent a lot of effort preventing a completely illegal use of weapons against a peace-loving state targeting civilians. Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about Hezbollah and Hamas sending rockets?
The problem is we could talk about that the U.S. destroyed all its good faith by deciding to strike Iran. Like, as moral as that war could have been, it's like you kind of chipped in your moral political currency. It's so stupid, man.
Just indiscriminately into housing areas in Israel. We never talk about that. We only criticize what the U.S. and others do. I think we should talk more about dealing with the threat and the evil that the Iran and its terrorist objectives have created. So what do we do? We defanged much of the Iranian military. We've certainly put a giant dent in their missile attack capabilities. We've set their nuclear program back by a long way. It had gotten pretty close, to developing weapons that they would use. I believe they would use those. So we have accomplished something in that regard. Do we accomplish everything? Of course not. We tried, we failed, but I think we have something we can work with. Now, do you know the details of the agreement? Because I certainly don't. It's
interesting looking at TOPS numbers among Roy Morgan, the gender breakdown of its support. It has strong support among 18 to 49-year-old men. Yeah, like, we brought this up previously, Simon, in stream, but, like, TOP is just, like, a less economically stupid version of the Greens. So, like, it has all the good vibes when it comes to, like, the environment stuff and, like, making our society better, but it also has, like, a pragmatic approach to the economy, relatively. Because from what I understand, most people on TOP are, like, ex-business people, so they're not, like, stupid as fuck when it comes to economic policy. But, because, yeah, I remember when I watched Quelly Wong on, like, a radio show, like, the call-ins that she got were, like, from the oldest motherfuckers I've ever heard in my life, and the most prepubescent sounding children ever. So it really is a mix.
That's a recipe for success, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
The two most important demographics in any election.
No, like, ironically, I don't know if you're joking or not, but, like, because, like, young people have, like, the ability, like, the problem with like young voters, right, is that the only way to ever get them mobilized is to, like, because they don't actually understand how our systems work or understand anything about civics. If you give them the best narrative and the most strongest sounding thing, they'll come out in fucking droves and get you elected. And old people, if you give them something that doesn't sound stupid as fuck and pleases their sense of moral superiority, especially when it comes to centrism, holy AIDS, you're gonna get their support in droves. So you got like two most, like, toxically loyal voter bases there. You want to do a quick vanilla run through, or do you want me to teach you the basics calamity? Brother, I am so tired. I just got back from work. I got oil all over my hands and face, fucking around the boiler. I love you, Pibble, but I am, like, not in the mood to play. I don't want to see any games right now. I'm so mentally, like, tired. Bro, the fuck, dude. Okay. Bye. I'll see you later, Pebble. I just don't care.
I want to watch my Pixel game. I want to watch my Pixel game.
I'm just not in the fucking mood today, dude. Like, I'm actually, like, so over it. Like,
sounding like it's a lot less than it was advertised. But we can still work from that towards something better. Last thing,
factory.
Like, I literally had the fucking meme today. I was like, oh, I hope I'm not in a long day factory today, because I was gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna come back home, read 4 o'clock, I'll, do some club stuff, then 5 o'clock I'll start streaming. Nope. Here I am.
PG-free. When I was in the War College, an Indian classmate made a great point that why does the U.S. spend so much effort on defending the Middle East and ensuring access to Middle East oil when since 1974, the first embargo, we have worked toward becoming basically energy independent. So why does the U.S. expend so much blood and treasure in the Middle East? The Indian officer says it's not your problem. It says India, China, Europe. Europe should spend a lot more time keeping the Strait open, keeping Iranian malfeasance down. And the question is, why does the U.S. care so much for the Middle East?
Okay, this guy's clearly bad faith. Or acting in bad faith. Because, like, how can you seriously, like, be, like, someone who wasn't a government before and someone who understands these things and, like, say those words seriously? Like, Fergus, I don't think you're in stream, so you didn't hear him, right? Yeah, he basically said that, like, when he was in a war college, an Indian, like, classmate of his basically pointed out, like, why does the US really care? Because they're basically energy independent ever since the first blockade or whatever. And he was like, yeah, China, Europeans, Indians, they should be invested in keeping the straits open. I'm like, yeah. First of all, that's a good point. It would have been really cool to have, like, a diplomatic deal set, a framework of, say, restricting nuclear power that might have been signed in 2014, say, for example. And, that would have been really cool, like, framework to go off of and then get international partners. And that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, like, this guy he has to know what arbitrage is, like, market-wise. He has to know the fact that oil is a global market. Just because you're energy independent does not mean your energy costs will stay low just because everything else is blowing up. That's not how that works, unless you, like, do an executive order on banning oil exports, which is obviously a different rabbit hole. Like, that's like a cope level of bad faith. because these are like basic things. Like you should understand, like the U.S. is currently going through this, where like yeah, technically the U.S. is energy independent, but their oil prices are skyrocketing because they're trying to like meet demand in other markets.
The thing is, the Strait of Hormuz was open for business before America
I hate
attacked
fucking
Iran.
game.
Closed the
Whatever.
Strait of Hormuz.
Well, it was open before
I
you
don't know why.
attacked them.
I
though.
closed
It wasn't
Terraria. I was so like free of like
Iran
the
closed
pain
it.
and
Yeah,
suffering,
why?
and I reopened it within like 10 minutes. Why is it so
Yeah, we went
expensive to
back.
be bourgeois? I want it to be a lot easier than it is. I was looking at a. Hold on. Wait, no, fuck. The fourth death, Newton. I was looking at record player stuff, because I need to get a new amplifier.
Yeah.
And it's just like that I want to drop $800 like right now. Drop, like $20 billion after that. It's like awesome. That's what is needed.
Yeah. I just need to buy some more records. My vinyl player is pretty good, and I've got a good speaker already, like a nice good old like literally called the Hyper Boom, dude. Like you can't get better than that.
I I went onto Discogs and I put in my collection because I was curious to see what it would what it's valued at, and it's actually pretty good. Like I think I've got a Frank Ocean. I got like one of the first orders of Channel Orange. When it finally got released on vinyl officially, because it's been out for like over a decade by this point, but he never released like an official vinyl. It was always like fake ones that were being released that if you found them in a store.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. Like at the lowest end, it's what like 100 NZD. At its highest, it's worth 400 NZD. And I bought it for 200 NZD, I think, because it converted into US from US prices. And my mum managed to find like a Bees Gees record that she bought for $5, but like in its condition is worth like 200 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how she found it. She just turned up. Was like, "Do you want it?" I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Listen to them, but sure.
The guy in that. That was their choice to close an international waterway.
But why did they close it?
Well, they could have done a lot of things. Maybe they were going to close it.
They closed it
otherwise.
because America attacked them.
Again, they closed it. They didn't have to do that. They affected. It's the same thing as launching missiles into a civilian neighborhood. It was a completely indiscriminate and illegal action that they took. Why they took it,
you could
anybody
argue
could
that
say.
the war itself was illegal, and most experts in terms of international law would argue that it was an illegal war.
A big if true.
Look, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to argue that. You can argue both sides of this.
You can't.
But what I take,
like the war is not even illegal in a U.S. standpoint. Like, genuinely, out of all the illegal wars in like world history, this is the most illegal. Because at least like the Soviet Union made up some like bullshit ass claim on like the Baltic states to invade them or whatever. At least like in their own nation, it was like valid. This shit didn't even go through Congress.
issue with is that anytime somebody else does something, it's immediately America's fault. And clearly, it's not. I mean, again, look at Hamas attacks Israel October 7th, 2023. I hear more about the poor Hamas and Palestinians than I do about what they did to Israel. We know.
I'm certainly not defending any terrorism here, but even for a country like New Zealand, this had huge economic consequences, and the cost has been put at over $1 trillion in terms of a reduction in world GDP. And that Strait of Hormuz was closed because of the military action of America and Israel. So to tout it as a win that we're reopening the strait seems a rather unlikely metric.
Oh my God, why is there a fucking dandelion?
What would be your response to that?
Well, I just say that, again, Iran does what Iran does. And I think we've demonstrated that there.
Hey, faggot. You want to engage in a hypothetical with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say that you and me have agreed on something, right? And it's been standing for a long time. None of us have violated this thing. And to do this thing, I gave you 24 cookies, okay? I was like, here,
Yeah.
here's 24 cookies that I took from you ages ago. I'm gonna give them back to you, and let's just have this deal set between us, but we just don't, fuck with each other. And then just say later on, okay. Let's just say someone body swaps me, right? They don't have my mind. It's a different ass person, but they body swap me. And then that person, Randy Orton RKO's your head through a fucking kitchen table, right? And then
yeah.
And then you and me proceed.
Now I'm really engaged thinking about WWE.
And then
that's really cool, Mike.
And then after that, you and me decide to me with my body swap thing, and you obviously in your normal body. We decide to fight for a solid 6 months, and while we're fighting, we keep hitting each other's girlfriends at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go.
Okay. And let's say after a while, this guy who possessed me decides, okay, hold on, this is stupid. What if I decide to give you 100 extra cookies that I'd stolen from you earlier, but I'm actually going to bake you another 300 billion cookies and give them to you. And then you decide that, you know what? That's fine. I'll take that. But not only am I not going to agree to not fuck with you ever again, I'm also going to decide to actively have a restraining order against you. Now, in this hypothetical, was the situation better before my body swap RKO'd you through a kitchen table or after the
Hypothetically, I think the situation would low key, very low key though. I think it's a 49-51 basis I'm going with here. I think it might have been better before Randy Orton overtook the body. And,
yeah. It's just so stupid. If you were just take out the words Iran, the US, and Israel and replace them with other words that meant nothing, everybody would know or agree with the fact that this war makes no fucking sense. No, fuck that.
It's the greatest victory.
Not even the war. Fuck. You could even claim the war makes the most sense. The conclusion of the war makes no sense.
Ayatollah Khomeini, the Wicked Witch of Tehran.
Yeah, I don't think the U.S. Congress want to vote on the Iran war. They don't want to be on the record of any congressman. Yeah, well, to be fair, it's the main reason why they didn't show up. But I think they've been showing up. I think the Dems got passed a Stop the Iran War Act or something like that. But Donald Trump, in his mind, signed the I Hate All Congress Act or whatever. The problem is Trump just has no respect for Congress. So it literally does not matter what Congress does as long as the Repubtards hold the House and the Senate. He has a carte blanche on basically doing everything. But yeah, this president, it truly is the case. This is not an American presidency. This is just a guy who's president. If that makes sense.
Kamala Harris, the Wicked Witch of Sacramento.
Sacramento. He turned me into a felon. You have to pardon me.
I saw a photo today, and it was a photo of a guy wearing a MAGA hat and a Holocaust memorial. And obviously that the irony is palpable there, but then I saw a comment saying in his mind he's probably thinking if Kamala won, this is what would have happened in America or something.
Yep. And you know what the irony is? He would be standing side by side with a progressive and a tanky in that internal monologue.
Don't argue with us communists. We haven't even read our manifesto.
Yep. Oh, also, you know that Instagram post I told you to go look at with that comment or that commie who posted or whatever shit.
Yeah.
She then proceeded to reply to herself, or she first replied to me and then she replied to herself after. She replied to the comment I made. Well, I was saying I'm so glad you guys act like this because you'll never be a serious political force, which is a fucking true statement, by the way. She then replied to it saying the CIA doesn't agree, and I was like, "You got me." Wow, strong argument there.
You don't get it, man. We had to hunt those homosexuals down in Cuba. That was
true. Che Guevara's remember chat. Che Guevara's favorite pastime, self-admittedly, by the way, was hunting homosexuals.
I love that. What's it called? What is this white flower seeds? Have I seen that post of it's a history post or whatever, and it's Che Guevara was like, oh sorry, not Fidel Castro was like really into like basketball,
Yeah.
and so like he made it like it was his favorite pastime to do,
Yeah.
and he obviously like when Che was still in Cuba, like obviously like they would play together, and like Fidel Castro would start spamming like the Euro step, which is like just a move in basketball that you do. And like Che Guevara got so agitated by him using the Euro step so often when they played basketball, he wrote this passage in his diary where he was like, it does lead to points, yes, but what does it do to the spirit of the worker or something when he keeps using this fucking
Yeah. But I think also, sorry, like even after that comment she put down that like the CIA doesn't agree or whatever, I then she proceeded to like reply to herself, oh by the way, there's no argument being made in this post. I'm like, nice brain cells, retard. Like it literally starts with money does not influence politics, and me saying, like, look at Mamdani's win, and like I understand that like someone who's like as goy infected as you cannot like has to see like someone like Mandami who's like trying to actually like do politics and not just do like slopulism as like the enemy of like your ideology. But like this guy objectively like does everything that fucks over the wealthy in New York, and he's actively against the status quo. And your genuine reaction is to be like, yeah, this guy still is a representation of the power of capital. I'm like, yeah, just like kill yourself, I guess. It's just like, remember, it's like you can never win with these people. Like, unless they get like,
revolution is serious, by the way.
Yeah, it's very it's like what's the fucking thing? Like, dog, look at my proletariat, dude. We're never getting the revolution.
It actually is just like we're reaching like, there's that thing. Like it started going around like when
Are you're talking about the Argentine asthmatic doctor who accidentally
died
in
like a century ago,
yeah,
1920s, and I'm just thinking, man, we've even got like the KPD like SPD like split in like Weimar Germany, where it's like the SPD is like, man, maybe we should try and work within like an established system, and then like the KPD is like, nah, you're actually like a fucking Nazi, I'm gonna just firebomb you. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like to be fair, it is just like agitation because like I think ever since the Soviet Union fell, because there's no real like external force backing the powers of communism, I think the idea is ever since like I would actually mark like Noam Chomsky as the point when this like kind of started shifting within communist like political strategies, where it just became, instead of like trying to actually like get political representation and become like politically viable, it became like we just need to do as much to disrupt like the West, and it's like ongoing and stuff like that.
The worst part is like people. It's like actually like I swear it's to some degree accelerationism. It's like people would rather see like an entire society collapse, and like a lot of damage happen through that.
Yeah.
Than just see the same type of thing they want implemented at a slower pace, and in doing so doesn't like sacrifice like 1,000 people's fucking well-being.
Yeah, but
which
again,
is just, like, to me, insane.
Yeah, but to be fair, like this is also the reason why I don't see communism as like an actual threat to the West. It's more just like ironically it's a threat to center leftism in the West, because it's like the problem is it's like it's the same reason why I talk about like my perfect world would be like where the Greens end up in a supply and confidence agreement and a coalition, because what happens is that the Greens will pass like a policy which is really good for their voter base and energizes their voter base or whatever, and an average Labour voter will be like, it's okay, I guess. But the problem is that people like National and stuff use the Green policy to attack at Labour, so it's like it's like a vector of attack kind of thing, where it's like these lefties who basically have no political relevance just shout the loudest, and it ends up hurting like us, basically, because people think that's what we're talking about. It's like, brother, that is not me. I do not associate with this motherfucker. But yeah. So like for me, like things like populism and in generalities, and even like alt-right ideologies are more of a threat because they're actually politically relevant. In Mamdani, his main opponent accidentally killed all those. Oh yeah, that guy, Sliwa or whatever. Also, Simon in chat put in a very cool thing about Che Guevara. He said, "Oh, are you guys talking about the Argentinian asthmatic doctor who accidentally died in Bolivia?" Do you see the pro-Palestinian people who shouted David Seymour in a toy shop opening day? That happened? What?
I saw that. I love that. I don't care about whoever says at this point. I just want that guy to have all his press conferences interrupted, because I would rather listen to someone shout like, I don't even know. it just I don't know. I would rather them recite like spoken word furry porn than listen to whatever he's going to announce at at any press conference, because he's gonna say dead ass and like no one's gonna question him properly on this. He's like, I want to pass a bill that's gonna absolutely annihilate the social cohesion of this society.
Yeah.
And like that's taken seriously. And like I would
Yeah.
rather like I don't know. It's just terrible.
Mm.
When I saw the clip.
Yeah.
Question.
No, but like like again, this is to do like labor messaging and stuff. Like they really need to just like keep shouting at the top of their lungs that they gave 730. Like I'll never stop talking about this. They gave $730 million in tax deductibility cuts to landlords and took away 542 million for school lunches. And obviously the school lunch quality and the supply thereof has gone down. Wow, who would have seen that one coming?
Well, the nutritional goals have gone down as well. And that's the big thing. I saw like they were claiming, oh, but the policy's been a success because you haven't. Oh no, like what they say the policy's been a success.
Yeah.
They can't say why, and they say it's unfair that they're being told they're failing because they're saying, oh, but you aren't comparing it to how Labour was doing it. But we know we can compare it to how Labour was doing it because it was more expensive, but it also was meeting nutritional goals for children, and like now those have dropped. So there is like. Just because you cut the cost in something does not mean you succeeded in any remote form.
And again, like I've talked about this where like politics is a lot of perspective, and like it truly could be the case that it's like David Seymour is not like saying he's just retarded. It could just be that. Like, so what's the thing is like don't attribute malice where there's just stupidity or whatever, because it's like he genuinely looks at it like, oh, I'm balancing the budget. Oh, look at me, but it's like he just does not understand the utility thing.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
like, that guy has some like dodgy connections to Peter Thiel, so I genuinely attribute like some form of malice to it.
No, fair enough. I'm not even like you'll never catch me like giving like an argument for David Seymour's like position. Like I thought you were the biggest defender. like even in the first election where I did give my vote to Actor National, I was like not the biggest David Seymour fan. I was like, you know what? I just think we need austerity. And I like ironically enough, like me when I did my first vote, I voted in the same like. I voted with the same disposition I currently have, where it's more like parliamentary pragmatism, because at the time I was like, you know what, I think the right bloc will be good here. We need austerity. We need to, like, shore up our debt, because, like, New Zealand has a small tax base. I had, like, my justifications. I was like, I'm not really strong on David Seymour, but, we need a thing. But, hey, you know what? Times change and people change. But, the one thing I just don't get, specifically with ACT, is, like, because like it's the same with First. Like right now with ends at First, I feel like that whole party will disintegrate once, like
once he's dead.
Once Winnie is gone. Yeah, once Winnie is gone. I don't think he's not gonna leave politics until he dies. I guarantee that. I would. Pretty old, isn't he? Like his late 70s or something.
I thought he was just turned 80, but I guess not.
Oh no, I think he's 82, isn't he?
I don't know. You have to look it up.
Yeah, but like that man would like I would bet money on him not like voluntarily leaving politics. I would bet money on that.
Yeah, probably.
Because that guy is like, ironically, as much as he bitches about career politicians, the man is an institution. He's institutionalized himself inside NZ politics. It's just hilarious. And then like, but the thing is, like, I think with ACT when Seymour's gone, because like you can hate Seymour all you want, but he's a very good demagogue for like that party. When Seymour goes, like, because I genuinely, on the top of my head, minus Brooke, I cannot name another ACT MP. Yeah, who's retiring? I can't name another ACT MP. So, like, I think once Seymour goes, ACT will disappear, because it's got more longevity than First. First is, like, a very new thing. But I think it'll go back to being, like, irrelevant. Ironically, I think, like, Top and, like, ACT will switch popularity positions, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
In the coming years.
Also, there's a thing on like every election cycle with its local council or government or whatever. There's always something on how like an ACT candidate had to resign because someone actually like looked into their history and like fucking
vile, yeah. There'll be a party to come out of this ashes of New Zealand First, and it'll probably be I think what might happen is First might have a split between the actual racists and the people who are just old and like think that like New Zealand back in like
Shane
1980
it's just like everyone else.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Winston is 80 from my understanding. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in his 80s. Like, is that the late 70s or 80s? One of the two. I can't remember. 82 is a number that comes in my head for some reason. But yeah, actually, may as well fucking check at this point. 81. Okay. That's pretty close. But yeah, like, the absolute state, man. The absolute state of our politics. I will say, though, like, as much as we complain, like, bro, whenever I, like, do American politics stuff on Saturday, and to be fair, I've known for a while, dude, our politics is so toxically normal in comparison. Because at least, like, the national will at least, like, lie and be bad faith about, like, a budget number, whereas, like, the Republicans out here are just calling, like, every, like, Democrat, like, a pedophile, gay, and retarded.
But
like,
they are.
True!
Hello?
Thought process does not comport with international law.
Yeah. True. Both sides are bad. That's why I'm gonna abstain my vote. Because I'm a moral actor. God, like nothing makes me want to like strangle someone than hearing an American saying like, "Oh, I think both sides have their problems." I'm like, brother, there is clearly a through line here.
But we're more critical of what the U.S. does than what the Iranians are doing?
Like
I don't think so.
anyway,
that's my position.
Fucking one comic artist who's just like, I don't know, he's fascist as fuck.
Mm.
But he'll post like a thing where it's like he does like the both sides debate. But he'll like copy like an actual historical like protest in his comic, and it'll be like civil rights protest, being like, we don't want to be lynched anymore, and he's like taking that as like the art inspiration to be like, actually the Democrats are just as bad as the Republicans or something.
It's just like, I don't even like. I truly mean this. Like, I can understand voting for Trump in 2016. I can even understand it in 2020. After January 6th, it's like, I'm sorry, if you voted for that man, you're like blatantly un-American. Because like, yeah, oh, that or retarded, genuinely. Because like, if you have all that, like, because like January 6th was like one of the few like political extremist events where like those motherfuckers recorded themselves in 4K, in multiple perspectives. So it's like, if you can't believe that, like, I don't know, you're like unsavable at that point.
Is that the U.S. took action to deal with an immediate problem, and as I said before, rather than sit there and wring our hands deciding if we're actually going to act,
not have to deal with harpies.
We decided to take action, and now we're going to deal with the after. I mean, Midnight Hammer, where we actually used this beautiful bunker buster, straight out of the movie Top Gun Maverick, by the way. Isn't that funny? The parallels in the movie and what happened. To set that nuclear program back, which I think, do you know of anybody who agrees with allowing a theocracy in Tehran to have a nuclear weapon? I mean, if you don't like proliferation, then you should be clearly against allowing a...
Yes, we are all anti-proliferation. We don't want a theocracy in the Middle East to get nuclear weapons. It would have been really cool if there's some sort of comprehensive deal signed by a previous president that wasn't torn to shreds by a guy with a fucking mental deficiency. Like, just fuck my life, dude. Like where is the soundboard? Where is the soundboard? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, here we go.
You see that clip? I've never seen someone deep like, I gotta be honest, you guys are all part of the Taliban or something.
Yeah. I've got a Philip DeFranco clip of like him saying, I've never seen like someone deep throw a dick from the back. I just played that shit. I'm telling you, bro, I've got some cinema soundboard clips. It's just like, this guy's a serious, like, this guy, okay, this guy's not a megatard. He's like a serious, like don't get me wrong, I can understand someone from a State Department or previous State Department thing trying not to like make it, not like embarrass the United States on a world stage, like give a justification for what the current president's doing. I can get that to some degree, but it's like, can we at least like agree to some point? It's like there was a comprehensive deal on the table, and this guy just ripped it apart, and then proceeded to do this in his second term. Like this was a two-stage. This is a two-stage retarded plan. He first tore up the deal in his first term, and in the second term he decided to go to war over his own fuck-up. Crazy shit, man.
Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But they have marched steadily down that path, and it's not going to be negotiations that they're going to violate. It's going to be physical action that stops them from that goal.
So just before we move on from Iran, because I want to talk about some of the lessons of asymmetry that this has thrown up, do you think it was strategically a smart thing to do? Looking back on it now.
Yes. It demonstrates the U.S. is not afraid to act. And that accrued...
Fucking slime rain. No, I don't want to do that.
There's so many things.
Fuck.
There's so many things I can say about this, but there's like no point because it's like this guy's so down the rabbit hole. He's already gone. We've lost him.
To other regional and global crises.
Well, you could argue that it shows the limits of American military power because you had a stomach for what, 4 months?
I didn't mean to.
Donald Trump was clearly concerned about the economic impacts and the gas prices at home and the midterms. I mean, doesn't this show Iran or others that actually America's appetite for military action is actually somewhat limited?
And look, I'm not here as a shill for any particular administration.
No, you're certainly not.
I am certain. I'm as nonpartisan as I can be.
I'm as nonpartisan as I can be. Has given every single justification for why this like what was needed. Just fucking neck me.
What's that like? Respect, like the Holden blood feast thing. Like, please God, let me just bomb Iran with like.
Yeah. It's like, because like the question Espina just gave him was like, you know, like, hasn't this war actually just shown the world if you just do enough economic damage, like the US will just back off? It's not like showed that the Americans actually have like a taste for war. They will do it if you like cross the line. It's like, come on, dude. Like, there are some common sense things you just have to like give up on.
But I would just say that if we could get more of our supposed allies and partners on board with a common threat rather than...
Yeah, it would have been awesome if you talked to your allies and your partners before this war and actually got them involved in this before you decided to, like, deep throat BB. It also would have been cool if you didn't antagonize all your allies actually, like, 6 months before this war began and decided to, like, even threaten, like, a piece of territory that was... Yeah, never mind, dude.
Just pushing it to the US and say,
Greenland's
fix it.
Save the world, dude, trust me.
True. Let me offer you a red pill, blue pill solution. What would you rather have? A comprehensive alliance against a theocracy in the Middle East or like a shitty ice island? Your choice.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. There's something about that island, though, that's just really making me think.
You know what? You know what it was? It was that JD Vance when he went to Greenland. He saw an Inuit baddie and he was like, "Fuck! I need to divorce my wife and get one of these."
That's a win. Yeah, but you didn't ask us in advance, did you? When you go back to Iraq, and I'm not saying that was a success either, but Colin Powell and George Bush went to the world.
This is like a hot take. Iraq was a success as a war. It objectively was. Like, I'm sorry if you don't think so. Like, you just don't understand. Now, was the occupation and then the stuff after the fact of success? Hell no. That shit was ass. It was a flaming piece of dog shit. But like that war was done like fucking quickly. Like there were missile cruisers on the coast of India bombarding every single fucking Iraqi base. Like I think like every single Iraqi like plane was basically like immobile by the time like US like Marines are like hitting the coast. Basically. So like that was like a comprehensive Yeah, like Iraq, like both Gulf Wars were done pretty fucking like efficiently, but yeah, obviously it was the after the facts that fucked up. But like, yeah, this war has been a fuck up from start to finish, and I would even fucking like argue even after this finishes it'll still be a fuck up because we'll be feeling the fucking after effects of an Iran that feels empowered.
Tried to get people on board. You didn't even go to Congress this time.
Yeah, no.
Certainly didn't go to any allies. We just woke up and saw the...
All right, so Epstein gave a really good comment. He's like, okay, yeah, you didn't come to the allies. It's been worstly executed in the Iraq war, and you didn't get it through Congress. What is his response going to be? It's going to be like definitely like conceding on this point and like admitting that this is a fuck up. It's definitely not going to be some sort of like deep throat glaze of the Orange Man, isn't it?
The bombs were falling. There was no attempt to build a coalition at all. Was that a mistake?
Again, career military guy, there is enormous benefit in the element of
wasn't successful. Why do you think Trump's doing a better job?
True.
The coalition of the willing.
Actually, if you think about it, you know what? No, you know what? I'm pro Trump now. He made a very he's actually giving me a very good point here. If you just can't occupy the country, you can't fuck up the occupation. Think about it, cinema.
Why did the Allies do this in Second World War?
True. You can't have all the D-Day casualties if they didn't technically succeed as an operation.
Technically, we're the better KD then.
Yeah, they could have claimed like whatever people died in D-Day. They could have been like, oh, it would have been worse if we actually committed to it.
Rise. And if you take the time to go out there and build coalitions, 6 months going into the first Iraq War, 6 months, that allows the other side to build up in response.
So Pokemon, Batman.
Also, that's like a bullshit point. The Iranian, like, not even like fuck everybody else. The Iranians, no one knew that this war was coming. Genuinely, like this guy's point is like, oh, if you would have built a coalition, the Iranians would have known. They could have prepared. Like, first of all, no, like the strongest Iranian defense is a fucking mountain. Okay, these Iran is not capable of like countering like intercontinental missiles and like a U.S. fucking carrier. Like if you actually like, coordinate that shit and like get that shit together like that, I don't get that point. It's like and because too like the U.S. and the Western allies, we're on the side of like abundant resources. Time is on our side, not theirs. And their economy was actively collapsing while they were having a revolution. It's like it was in their best interest that you guys, like retarded ass goys as you are, to go in quickly. Like it was in Iran's best interest that the U.S. did this haphazardly. It's just so stupid all throughout. There is no passion. There is no vision.
No fucking
Sometimes
mindset.
the element of surprise definitely outweighs the need for global buy-in, which we weren't going to get anyway. So,
yeah, but then you asked for help, didn't you, America, in terms of opening the strait, and then publicly called out Japan and Australia and others for not responding. Does that tell you something about the ability of the US now to call on allies?
I mean, if you want to look at NATO as an example of the utility of alliances in a non-Soviet era Cold War, Dave Stilwell thinks alliances have long outlived their utility. NATO,
Really?
the cost of membership of NATO is how much? 2% of GDP. Meanwhile, something like 15 or 20% of NATO countries actually complied with that.
Yeah, but when's the only time that Article 5.1...
Who cares?
Well,
This is just like whatever, bro.
hang on. The only time that the article that asks other countries attack on one as an attack on all was invoked was after 9/11.
I hear that all the time. Here's what I'd say about that. The whole point of 2% of GDP is meant to deter Russia, Moscow. That's the whole point. By not deterring Moscow in 2014 and 2022, guess who rode to the rescue on that? We did. The whole point.
It's like, yes, NATO's main thing is to be like a bulwark against Russia. That is true. I would love to hear this guy's opinions on the current president of the United States, like opinion on like the Ukrainian situation. It's like it's just stupidity through and through. I just don't get it, dude. Also, thanks because obviously you didn't hear it because you're not on stream or whatever. But like, Epps, he was asked a question of like, you know, what the last time Article 5.1 was invoked of NATO was the Americans using it, and before he could finish a sentence, this guy says, "Who cares?"
Okay, that's an interesting response. It's an interesting game, but I'm interested to see where he takes it.
Sorry, I'm back. I had to do something. You there? I guess you there?
Dude? Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I had to do something. What were you saying?
Need this fucking slime rain to end.
Okay. A dinner with Charlie Kirk or a dinner with George Floyd? I think I already answered this question before, but George Floyd easily. All right, let's. I'm only like 11 minutes into this thing. It's already been so much retardation.
The point of NATO is to send a message to Moscow to deter Moscow from adventure in Ukraine and elsewhere. And when you don't do that, what you're saying is you're green lighting Putin and others, saying we don't care enough about defense to fund even a modicum, a small defense. 4% consistently the U.S. has spent on defense. And we can't even get Spain, 1.2%, and they say we can't afford to take money away from our social programs.
Oh, and it's a fucking blood moon straight after.
We're
dude.
talking tactical, operational, at the strategic level. What happened, again, may not have accomplished everything, the exaggerated objectives of this, but I do think it let the world know that if you expect reasonable price, energy, and all the rest, you have to carry that burden as well, not just the U.S.
Well, let's talk about, we can come back to Ukraine,
sure.
Because you've talked about defence spending at 2% of GDP. New Zealand is aspirationally moving towards 2% of GDP on.
Also, Fergus, I know what you're saying on this, because I know a lot of people who are green voter types and lefty types are anti like increasing our military spending, but I think it's the same reason why I think public sector spending is pretty base and awesome. I think we should be actually increasing our military spending. Now, keep in mind,
I said this to you already. There's nothing wrong with military spending.
Yeah.
It's just New Zealand's gone about it.
Yeah, no, I was just about to bring
So
stuff where it's like,
strangely.
yeah, I was about to be like, I don't want us just spending money to buy stuff. I want to actually set up a military infrastructure because that will like, create long-term jobs and it'll actually make sense in the long term. It'll be cheaper for us to uphold our NATO obligations, which we should be. I think it is a moral thing to do. But yeah, like I think you and me share the same position where it's like we should actually be investing in the infrastructure and not be like, hey, can
I don't really know what the.
Yeah.
I don't think the Green Party's had a real opinion on this, except for the fact that like the same thing I have, where it's like they're just doing it fucking stupidly. Like
Yeah.
they don't. There's no foresight behind it, and there's so many other things we could be spending money on it. The money they spent on it.
If you raise military spending, then they're send you to New Vietnam, Korea based. That's what I want. No, you should be raising. You should have you should be meeting NATO targets because like he's right to a degree over here. This other guy, like it's kind of like a if all of NATO's united in funding their shit, like other other countries who are obviously part of NATO and want to like attack NATO countries or people who are NATO aligned, they'll be more scared to do so. Like remember, Russia attacked Ukraine in a time where like NATO was basically doing nothing with all their shit, and they were the most disunited. And also like military spending is just a good thing for like employment and just like keeping your economy running even like in times of economic decline, because it's a government expenditure. It's the same thing with public services. You're Russian, this makes so much sense. Go, fine, go to Siberia. I send you to Siberia. Sorry, but I love Russians. You guys do not get to have an opinion on NATO, okay? For a very obvious reason.
Defence spending. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, was asked about this in Singapore recently.
Get it, man. We actually fucked around with every single one of our neighbours, so naturally they sort out defensive alliances. This means they've this means they're trying to infringe upon our sovereignty.
I'm a draft dodger. I know what I'm talking about. I know you're a draft dodger, which is why I enjoy you in chat, because any draft dodger in my books and from Russia is already like an awesome person. But like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your country. Okay, your country is finagling around and stuff, and like, I don't mind. Like, for example, if like tomorrow the New Zealand government's like, hey, we're gonna extend like our military, or like our special services to like fight in Ukraine and support Ukraine, I'll be completely for that. And that's why we should be increasing our military spending, so our guys have the best equipment and are dealing with like equipment that's like 20 to 30 years old. George Floyd, I already told you. I'd rather have a dinner with George Floyd. But yeah.
He said 2% is not enough, and so 2% is freeloading. Do you agree with that characterisation that New Zealand is freeloading on the US by our current expenditure on defence?
I think, look, New Zealand's a unique position given the distances and the relative threat you present to others in the region. What is a good amount of defense for New Zealand is up to New Zealand, right? You're not part of some sort of a NATO alliance. So if that's the Secretary of War's position, you know, I probably wouldn't agree with that. But I do think there's a message that goes with how much you do contribute to your own defense. And that number cannot include expecting the U.S. to ride to the rescue when the next time the Chinese Navy does exercises in your waters or is, raiding your fish stocks and your EEZs, but you don't have a Navy or a Coast Guard to defend yourselves. And so now you look to us. Well, better Australia, obviously.
Let's flip it around. He's calling us a freeloader. We fought in...
Hey, Aliana. Nice to see you back in stream.
Korea for the US. We fought in Vietnam for the US. After 9/11, we sent our SAS into hotels in Kabul to take on people.
I read that criminal code you sent me last time. You said that it basically made it so that like the sexual assault laws weren't favoring men or whatever. But I read it, but it looked pretty equal. Yeah. Yeah, no, I read it. It basically meant that like any kind of penetration non-consensually is like cringe, which is what it said, regardless of gender. So it seemed pretty equal. I decided fuck revolver by a shotgun. Based. I didn't read the code. Yeah, I read the code last night before I got off stream, and it seemed pretty equal, gender-wise.
Who are blowing themselves up with suicide vests. We fought in Afghanistan for 20 years for you, despite no alliance.
For us?
Well, for the American-led Operation Enduring Freedom, it was called,
and
your which was started because of the planes that flew into the Twin Towers. So, to call us freeloaders.
How about the London bombing and the Madrid bombing and all the rest of that stuff that Bin Laden was putting together? It wasn't just the Twin Towers. I mean, this stuff. Osama bin Laden is operating freely in Afghanistan, and somebody had to take care of it.
Yeah, it was everybody's interest to take down Osama bin Laden because he was a big terrorist and he was gonna fuck around in other countries too. But like the main thing was 9/11. It was the thing that happened to you guys, and you guys triggered Article 4 or 5. I can't remember which one it is. To send us to the sand.
That, but when we stopped that activity, it brought
Obama bin Laden. Yeah, Obama bin Laden. My God, my only president. I only recognize Obama bin Laden for president. Can't legally own a pump action. I'm limited to bolt action, brake action, lever action, rolling blocks, and British loading up. And she's RDR2 maxing. Stop her.
It defeated terrorism in any number of places. Did it land in your shores? Probably not yet. As I said, your distance and geography helps you. Could it?
George Floyd is... Yeah, George Floyd is my only president based, and I'm living in Russia. Well, to be fair, if you listen to Donald Trump enough, Canada, Russia, and Mexico are the biggest fentanyl producers. So George Floyd probably wasn't like an honorary Russian citizen. So what were you saying with the interest rates? I kind of blacked out.
Well, the IMF has advised that the Reserve Bank should raise interest rates in the near future.
I think it should, because I don't know if I think I should have brought this up to you because I never stop bitching about the after effects of inflation and how much people underestimate it. But like when COVID inflation happened, obviously it spiked and you don't really feel the effects of inflation prices until 3 years after the fact. So the only way to fix this is to have a really good inflation rate for a solid 5 years, and maybe you could see life get to normal again. I think the Reserve Bank should, because I think what's the current inflation rate? Isn't it like 4%? Inflation, because our target is 2% if I remember correctly. It's 3.1%. But yeah, it's not like what's the number now. It's like how do we keep the number at what it is or even lower for a while. So I think because the Reserve Bank has already floated this idea actually, and I'm gonna be real with you. I think the current Swede, I think she's a Swede who's in charge of like the Reserve Bank, is a fucking queen. Okay, I've seen a lot of her shit, and I'm just gonna be real with you. European finance people just tend to be better than any of our local guys. So I think raising interest rates long term is just a better thing to do. I don't see a problem in it. Then by carbon, if you can have the pump action, which is most reliable, I would crack the what is? I would crack the current president of Finland. Okay. Now, may I need something that can be broken in half easily, something that doesn't have rifling on the barrel, something that doesn't automatically eject the cartridge. He's a great lad, yeah. To be fair, the current guy in Finland, he's got that like got that aura, you know. Yeah, this guy. The president of Finland. Yeah, the current president of Finland, he's like, every time he opens his mouth, like, it's just the most base shit ever. I've never seen like a bad take come out of his mouth, so far at least.
Entirely possible,
Sure,
right?
but
So is it in your interest to defeat a global threat? Yeah, absolutely. If you believe, if your values are such that, you know, these things accrue globally, of course you're going to participate. You're not doing it as a favor to us.
Also, Ganju Buster, I've seen you a couple times in chat now, okay? Join Puffik, another Russian in chat, and following me, okay? I don't mind you chatting, but I see you. There are lever actions that can, but none in my price range. Okay. What's like the average lever action shotgun in Canada cost? Aliana, like roughly, give or take.
This is something this is what nations do, right? So I don't think it was necessarily a favor to the U.S. You know, Article 5. Again, I bridle at that because of the supposition that this is somehow a U.S. problem. This is a global terrorist problem, and we all need to contribute.
Mm-hmm. I promised we'd talk about asymmetry.
Average lever action in Canada is pre 1898 is like 1600. God damn. God damn. That makes sense though. That seems like, I say reasonable, like reasonable for what it is. I'm looking to buy this shotgun for 1100 and a leather lock case 3. Okay. How many shells can it hold? The current shotgun you're looking to buy? Is it like something you can like load the fuck out of, or is it like one of those things where you just put like 2 shells in and that's it? 2 shots? Oh, okay, got you. Oh, it's one of those. Is it like this way? Is it like horizontal or is it vertical? On the shots.
Idea that you can have a very well-funded and sophisticated military, and yet
horizontal.
That
oh,
can
okay,
be
cool.
counted.
That's pretty cool. You know what? This is actually a gun question I've been meaning to ask. I can show you. Actually, no. Send the link in chat. But there's also something I wanted to ask for a while, because I know sawn-offs exist. What is the practical use of a sawn-off? Because I've never actually got a good answer for this. Oh shit, that's some vintage shit. Practical use of sawn-off is hiding underneath the coat. Okay. But like there's no actual like use when it comes to the gun itself, right? Like does the shotgun actually become worse if you do a sawn-off? Or like does it stay like the same basically from No, it's just a downgrade besides that law. Okay, so it's basically a downgrade, but it's basically to assassinate people or like do gang shit.
By often drone warfare at the moment. And we've seen this in Ukraine as well. I mean, the economics of this, for a start, we saw it in Iran, didn't we? You get these Shahed drones, I think they're called maybe $20,000.
I'm personally not a big fan of double barrels and shotguns in particular, except for the pump actions. I think the carbines do. They're better and can be legally very easier to obtain. That's so awesome. You know who should be a fan of though? Me. Alright? Ganju. You're in my chat. And you've got a gun lover Aliana here. And we've got a Russian Puffik. I want you to join my Russian chatters, okay? Use cases makes or breaks your decision. Yeah, that yeah, to be fair, it also depends on like why you want a shotgun and what you're gonna use it for.
HBO. You reminded me I need to get my gun license this week.
Do you have HBO?
No, I need to get. I'm just going to get a free trial because, like,
You should watch if you have spare time on the free trial or whatever. You should watch Chernobyl, the TV show. It's like 7 episodes, I think, so it's like 7 hours of your time.
it's still this big boy. Fuck, what does he say? The tanks are full.
Yeah. No, there's a guy that's like, tell me, Professor Legasov, how does an RBMK reactor explode? Like, dude, anytime I see a clip with him, because like the actor for Professor Legasov, if he's like in any other show, the comment section in any reel or short he's in, it's like, so how does it? That's a very interesting argument. But how does an RBMK reactor explode? Shotgun's great. All I have to worry about is gunpowder residues. So as long as you police your cartridge casings and don't use slugs, okay.
To build one, Patriot.
When it comes to slugs, like what kind of slugs, or like what kind of shells? Like, because I know there's slugs, I know there's birdshot. Are there like different varieties? Because I know you can get like different types of shells depending on like what you're trying to do for like hunting, but like other things.
Interceptor knocks it out of the sky. That costs $4 million. So you've got a sort of a ratio there that doesn't really stack up. Do you think that the US needs to reconfigure its military in light of this?
100%. Yes, we need to change the way we.
Birdshot, buckshot, then slugs. Okay. Because what I understand is that the slugs are actually pretty accurate. Like, ironically, because I think in games they make it so that shotguns are like basically like the most close range things ever. But what I understand, like slugs are basically like dead accurate things. Buckshot most popular, yeah. Yeah, I think buckshot's for like hunting stuff, from what I understand. Like hunting bigger game. Either buckshot or birdshot can be turned into slugs if you cut the cartridge right. Okay, all right.
Look at conflict, armed conflict. The word war in
all right, I'm gonna go and watch some
for sure. Probably New Zealand.
All right,
I'm fluent to an American. So I'll catch you later.
All right, see ya. Yeah. All right, he's gone, chat. It's just you and me now. It depends if you have rifling on your shotgun or not. They're just big bullets. Okay. So if you have rifling on your shotgun, are like slugs pretty like dead accurate? Is that how they work? Like give or like obviously I have no clue, but like give or take, like what's the range of like a shotgun if you use slug with rifling? Like how far can you shoot it before it starts diverging from its path?
New Zealand, definitely in the U.S. always involves people like me flying things that are painted gray and killing people and breaking stuff. That is not how our adversaries look at war, and that's definitely not how the PRC looks.
Would you go to the front lines in Ukraine as a regular infantryman, or any side for 200,000? Would you do that? Well, yeah, rifling makes more accurate. Okay. Would you go to the front lines in Ukraine as a regular infantryman or any side for $200,000? Would you do that? I'll answer your question if you follow me. No, I don't fight for money. Based, Aliana. Based. You fight for money, you're basically a slave. Right? The money should be like a byproduct, okay? Okay, there you go. Now I'll answer your question. No, I think I'd fight as a regular infantryman. Because I'm guessing what you mean by the 200,000 for any size. Like, if Russia offered me 200,000, I would fight for Russia. I'd rather be on the Ukrainian side, because they seem to be more in their drone stuff. And also, I actually believe in the Ukrainian cause. That's like another thing.
Looks at war. War is political, it's economic, it's information, it's
ideology all the way. Queen.
all those other things intended to bend the adversary to your will, intended to stop New Zealand from supporting issues that Russia, Iran, China don't like. And so if the free world can start rethinking its approach back to military modernization, we would still look at more tools that defeat the real threat, which isn't necessarily kinetic.
So you would take Ukrainian side for 200K? So what did you mean by the money? Did you mean that? What is that question? Wait, so like would I fight for Ukraine as a regular infantryman, or just be on their side for What is that? What does the money part mean? Because I thought you meant like the Russians give me 200K, then I join the Russian side for signing the contract. But then what are the? Okay, Ganju. You said that would I rather do? Become a Ukrainian infantryman or the $200,000? So what's the, and then they would pay you while you're still alive to the end of the war. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna say what I think you meant, and then you tell me if I'm correct. So join as an infantryman and get the regular salary, or take the 200,000 contract and fight until the end of the war. Is that what it is? If they're offering that much, it's probably because you're fodder and don't expect you to live long enough to cash out. Yeah, that's also what the Russians are doing currently with their contracts, especially like the North Koreans and stuff.
There are 100 different ways to deal with the Iranian terror threat. One of those is to shoot these little drones out of the sky. Kind of had to do that because if they're coming into New Zealand, you would want the same thing. But maybe we can get ahead of this. The Defense Department of War and others can get ahead of this.
Also, Aliana, this is mostly for you because you're a nice person to talk to. And I love seeing you chat. If there's a video you want me to react to, something that's particularly in your interest, send it because I am so tired from work today. I have so much baggage mentally right now. I don't care if people use fodder, by the way, even Ukraine uses foreign fighter. Yeah, fair enough. A Venezuelan unit was sent out on a suicide mission, for example, yeah. One time for signing the contract, something around 200,000, and then let's just say $4,000 a month. See, like, that's fine. I understand what you're saying, but what was the other part of that question then? Like you said joining as a Ukrainian infantryman, and then the signing bonuses. But like, I would rather just take the money then, because there's no negatives down. There's no downside. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. You're welcome.
Thing and start defeating the manufacturer. You remember Operation Grim Beeper? Where the Israelis got ahead of the problem and they put explosives in the beepers that the terrorists were using?
Pages, we call them in New Zealand. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Grim Beeper. Yeah. Brilliant. It involved getting into supply chains early on and then...
But you could receive, with some conditions, with mild injuries, more than 100,000 in a couple months. Yeah. Okay.
Setting up, knowing that only that group used that thing, and then detonating them to take out their command and control and the leadership.
Yeah, I'd kill for doing it up front, $4,000 a month if the side was morally neutral enough. Yeah, like for example, like Aliana, I know you have your problems with the Ukrainians, but I think both you and me would rather fight for the Ukrainians than the Russians now, because at least the Ukrainians are trying to defend themselves in that war.
So, you're right. The old concept of warfare.
Also, like, this is just a me thing. Like, the Ukrainians seem to be way far ahead in drone technology. I don't want to get, like, spawn killed by a Ukrainian drone. So, like, even like, if you take the morals out of it, I'd rather just fight for the side that tends to have their shit together. Yeah, I'd rather fight for the Ukrainians. Well, yeah. The question was, would you join any side for the amount of money? And then you would be... Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. No, I would just join the Ukrainians, yeah. That was your question.
Especially what we got really, really good at in the Middle East, counterterror, is really OBE. It's no longer as valid as great power competition. And this is where we need to focus. And that great power competition doesn't involve us flying over the top of China doing stuff. It involves a completely different mindset, which many of us are learning from as we watch what's happening in Ukraine, is how the Russians in Ukraine, and definitely how Ukraine has modernized and updated its military to compete very effectively against a larger Russian.
Also, Ganju, like, what oblast are you from in Russia? Because I know Putin isn't mobilizing Moscow and St. Petersburg. Because I remember one of my one of my Russian chatters who came in, I think Jester, he was from Yakutsk, and I don't know where Puffek's from. Puffek just hasn't told me. But like, what oblast are you from? A central part. Oh, so like near what? Like near Yaroslav. $4,000 is a bottom line with some achievements. Okay, okay. Not from Moscow. Okay. I join any anarchist cell. They're typically funded by Ukrainian government. Yeah, no, they are. Well, like I think I told you in a previous stream before, Aliana, but like, as an anarchist, you kind of have to support Ukraine because that's where anarchy was born. The like ideology of anarchism came out of Ukraine. These days, I'd work clandestinely among the civilians, and not. To be fair, you could be. Oh, Voronezh. Oh shit. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Because I know Putin isn't touching Moscow and St. Petersburg because that's where all the oligarchs live and where most of the population supports him lives. Oh, that's cool. We got a Voronezh Russian in the chat. That's cool. Yeah, but like I know Aliana, there's like in Ukraine there's a lot of partisan efforts actually run by a lot of women. Women tend to be a lot with the partisan movement because Russians are like doing systemic like essay to like any woman they like see in the occupied territories. So a lot of women are involved in the resistance. So hey, we could paradrop you into the occupied territories. You can work as one of the partisan cells. As an anarchist, you have to support the state of. I wanted, yeah, but hey, it's more of the fact that like the Ukrainians came up with your awesome ideology. I think you got to pay some homage.
Force.
Yes, they have, and I just wonder, and I
think about it, Aliana. You could be the anarchist hero that makes Ukrainians rethink anarchy. If you just make enough of an impact, they could make a statue of you and reenact anarchism. Women are goaded agents, but I'd rather shoot myself than being a female presenting as a gorilla. Okay.
To this in the intro that what are the lessons here? Because it seems like it's very, very hard for even a major power to win a war. I mean, you guys have found this out. You found it out in Vietnam. I mean, Iraq, had massive challenges and problems too.
Sure.
You handed back Afghanistan to the Taliban after 20 years. And
I'm an anarchist hero. I get told this regularly by others. But think, you could be an international anarchist hero. You could break borders. Okay, you could break the current thing you have in Toronto. And my big sister calls me good go.
And now we've got this kind of scenario in Iran. Russia's faced the same problem in Ukraine. I mean, when are we going to learn?
Well, I love the way you phrase that because the goal isn't to win. The goal is to achieve objectives. And that means you develop measurable and achievable.
Achieving objectives is winning, by the way. So that's objectively what it is.
Objectives in the beginning. If you build this thing as an overall win, as we saw in World War II, which was really the last time we saw what looks like victory, that means complete surrender in both European and Pacific theaters. That hasn't happened since. We need to recalibrate our people.
Change starts at home. Change starts in my province, and within America. Then once we have a center of gravity, we can afford to push out. Yeah, well, that's how most political movements start. Like if you want to do something politically, especially like because the reason why the status quo exists is because everybody in society just generally agrees upon it. And if you want to start something fresh and new that's not in the political discourse, yeah, you need to locally organize because like it's the reason why people who don't vote and the people who don't organize, I have no respect I have no respect for them because like you lose your right to bitch if you don't actually do anything about it. But yeah, like people who organize, who try to set up local chapters for politics and start to like get involved in their communities and like start actually talking about that stuff. That's pretty cool shit, You should be doing that if you're trying to get like I mean like look, I don't agree with like your anarchist perspective or whatever, but I can respect the fact that you're actually trying to do something about it instead of just sitting at home and bitching and moaning, which most people do actually. And it's not just like normal people, even people like political streamers on this platform who have a lot of money. All they do is bitch and moan, and they don't really do anything about it.
Expectations of what we expect to achieve in any particular military or other activity.
I don't want to go back over that same.
I don't vote personally, but I do organize. In my opinion, voting is just fair enough. Like people can have an ideological reason for not voting. I think voting is the best way to get political power. Like, for example, like the Democratic Socialists of America organization is getting a lot of their candidates through, and it's kind of like a way of showing like your country, like, hey, we are not only politically relevant, like people actually believe in our message. But like, that's fine. I understand if you have your own personal like ideological reason. Like, I don't get people who morally or apathetically give up voting. Those people I don't really care about. But like people who have like an ideological reason for not voting is a different story. We have a say greater than their poets. Yeah, I hate when people bitch and moan, then shrivel up when held to the toilet. Yeah, exactly.
Ground with Iran, but Donald Trump, I was watching on the night of the invasion, and he talked about Iranians being able to take over their own country, and once we've finished.
Yeah, well, as I said, like I like to think of myself as a guy who like can view through other people's perspectives. Like when I say not voting, what I mean is like if you look at people who don't vote, and their reason is like, oh, it doesn't really affect me, they're usually upper middle class people, because like nothing that is done in politics actually affects them. Those people are cowards, in my opinion. And same people, and some people who say both sides are the same, when they're like, for example, you're an anarchist, so you don't fundamentally believe in the state, or like state-driven democracy, which is like, that's an ideological reason for not voting. But like, if you're not voting because you're like, oh, both sides are the same, but you actually agree on the perspective of the state, like, I'm sorry, you're stupid as fuck. Like, both sides are definitely not the same. It's the reason why there are two parties. I love you. I'm a liberal and think of every other person with a strict radical political view as unemployed. Come on, Ganji, we don't disrespect Aliana the Queen like that, okay? Like, no, don't be wrong. I'm a liberal too. I'm a center-left lib. I have a strong position on that. Constitutional democracy, fundamental human rights, things like that. Like, even Aliana, like, as an anarchist, like, her whole thing is just like the state is cringe. But like, when you look at like the norms democracy has cultivated, like, she agrees with like 99% of like life in a democracy. It's just that the state is cringe. That's like the biggest thing. So like anarchism is like the one like fringe ideology where I have like a meaningful respect for, because it's just not stupid as fuck. That's like it's kind of like politically not possible in my opinion, but like it's at least not like like tanky stuff or like fascist stuff, like that's the shit where it's like I don't even want to talk to these people.
Will be able to rise up, and he talked about regime change. I mean, those metrics just simply weren't met.
Would you disagree with that outcome? Wouldn't you like that to happen? If we enabled, if by
but it didn't happen though, did it?
No, it's true. And as I'm hearing that language, I'm thinking of Chalabi, curveball, Iraq in 2003, and all those. Okay, got it. So I'm hearing the same thing. And the difference is we didn't put boots on the ground, which makes extraction much simpler. We set objectives. Some of those objectives were to degrade their command and control and their leadership, which we've done. It was definitely to degrade their capability to attack their neighbors. We accomplished that. So to say that it's a complete law or failure isn't quite right either, right? Did it achieve regime change? Did it make it a peaceful, democratic Iran? It did not. Is that an achievement, a goal we would like? I'd love to see that.
Soon I retire from the workforce. Oh yeah, you're about to become chronically employed soon. Soon, that's the key word. Been a worker since I was 16. Yeah, I started doing part-time jobs when I was around 16, where I could make some money. Would you be okay with social liberalism as an ideology, or would you have a difference which center-left liberalism? Simon, is that a question for me? I'm guessing it's for me, considering I said I'm a center-left lib. Also, where is he? Ganju, if you're still in chat, since you told me you're a Russian lib, what's your opinions on Navalny? Because I saw some really cool stuff about that guy until he fell down some stairs, as they say in Russia. Because I heard Navalny was pretty good democratic opposition until he passed away.
And people would love to see that. But did we achieve some of the objectives, or at least the most important ones? I think we did.
Okay.
It's always we rambled that river, and I all along your green valley. I'll work till I die. My land I defend with my life. If it be for my pleasure or plenty, must always be free. Based poetry. Yes. Okay. So let me read it again. Would you be okay with social liberalism as an ideology, or would you have a difference? Which center-left liberal? So like liberalism is like a core tenet I approach politics from. Like, obviously this is like the core things. So like, for example, like the National Party and the Labour Party are like two parties I can respect on their ideological framework. and I can build upon that. And like my vote can flip depending on the policy platforms they attribute. But like because like social liberalism as in itself, I think is a social prescription we've all kind of agreed to in the West. Even ironically enough, if you're a conservative, like respecting women, kind of the whole thing, like not beating your wife. Like I know I'm being very general and very like whatever, but like what I'm talking about. But like the reason why I'm like a center left lib is because my economic prescriptions are to usually more to the left. More distribution, more equity programs, make sure that people have a leg to stand up, stuff like that. Navalny is something between Nietzsche and George Floyd. Okay, to be fair, George Floyd is your favorite president, so you should appreciate Navalny for that. Talking about George Floyd like he's a philosopher, not just a murder victim. True, he was a huge figure before. Yeah. I know Navalny was like very on his shit as an opposition leader, but as I said, he fell down some stairs, as they say in Russia.
Let's talk about China, because I want to dig into this, because you're an old China hand. Did fighting in Iran weaken American ability to deal with China, do you think?
That is a distinct concern. Now, I won't talk about exactly how we do this in the Pentagon, but there is a very detailed process that ensures that we don't do that. That ensures that we always have enough of war reserve material, WRM, to take care of other regional contingencies. So I don't know this personally, and that's good because I can't be accused of, revealing secrets, state secrets. But I know that there is a process that prevents us from getting into a point where the PRC looks and goes, wow, they're completely helpless.
Yes, because you did have serious munitions.
Because same as Nietzsche, his legacy was humiliated by his colleagues and his organization, and especially his wife. Nietzsche was I know, like Nietzsche, like I think his sister or whatever, like shelled out all his philosophy to the Nazis, and then the Nazis used like the whole concept of the Übermensch or whatever to justify their stupidity. Yeah, like Nietzsche truly is like a sad figure philosophically, because like the man like had a really like interesting thought process and like had a very interesting way of like viewing life, but a lot of the shit got like bastardized. And then Navalny became a meme like George Floyd, despite being not so horrible. Yeah, no, like Navalny was he was like good man. Just like that's about it. I do feel bad for him specifically, because he was just trying to do the best for, well, obviously you, Ganju. He was trying to do the best for the average Russian, but Putin obviously had different ideas.
Run down in Iran, didn't you? I think the CSIS did the numbers and talked about some of that.
But the CSIS know what the classified numbers are. Do they know what allies and partners possess, what we can fall in on, and all the rest? So believe me, the Pentagon, with 25,000 people in that building, massive, is a well-oiled machine in this regard, accounting for our WRM, what capabilities we have left. There's no way that they emptied everything in the Pacific to take care of this one regional problem. So I would not worry about that. The PRC has not done anything extravagant. They know that we can still come ride to the rescue if we have to. And the best thing about all this isn't kinetic, it's not military, it's the Prime Minister of Japan, Tani.
His colleagues always were crooks, and most likely he himself was very aware. Yeah, I think I talk about this a lot. Like, there's not many moral people in politics, and when I mean moral, I don't mean like good people. I mean like people who have like an ideological framework and then do politics. A lot of people do politics for like social clout, or because it's like a community, or maybe they've been wronged in some way. Not many people join politics because they want to improve their community. And it's a human thing. Humans don't tend to do things for other people, and it kind of sucks.
Takaichi, fantastic. I mean, the right person at the right time. The Japanese peace constitution, Article 9, says they can't use war as an instrument in national policy. However, they need to get back to normal nation status. Why can't Japan have its own military? And she's doing a great job of getting back to that. Strategically, that tells the PRC that your actions are actually making things worse for you in the region than better. I mean, I love it when Xi Jinping tries one of these things and it backfires horribly, and he has to go back and go, man, we screwed that up again. And he did.
He met recently with Trump at that summit, and the US paused a $14 billion arms deal to Taiwan, and there was discussion from Xi about the consequences that would happen if Taiwan was mishandled. Do you sense America's appetite to intervene over Taiwan waning a little bit? How do you read this?
No, I don't. As you know, Donald Trump is not a typical politician. and
Yeah, he's a
he does things
retard.
differently. And what worked really well in the first administration was an avoidance of bland statements and inaction. And he would say outrageous things, and we got North Korea to the table, and that was deemed impossible.
They didn't get North Korea to the table. North Korea was Donald Trump going to North Korea was the first time a U.S. president saluted the North Korean army. That wasn't getting North Korea to the table. That was a humiliation ritual that Trump didn't realize he was doing. They've been stealing millions of dollars by the like. I'll put it like this: I guarantee people in Navalny's area, like who are in Navalny's vicinity, are definitely probably less corrupt than the average Russian politician. But like even then, that's not even saying much. Like a bank with no, I agree.
And by keeping the narrative, keeping people off of balance, it definitely drove things in the right direction, I think, especially on the China account. Can you overuse that strategy, that approach? Yeah, maybe, to the point where your adversaries and your friends might be beginning to doubt what you can do. Again, I'm not going to sit in judgment, but I do think that is a possibility.
You worked for Trump. Is he a force for good in the world?
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, you worked for Trump? That makes so much sense now.
I was in the previous administration, I won't name it, in uniform. I was in the Pentagon. And I just remember that we would sit there and talk about things we absolutely had to do. And then we'd come back and talk more about it. And we just kept talking.
I'll see you later, Ariana. See you tomorrow.
We never did anything because we were waiting for a solution that was absolutely risk-free, politically safe foreign policy. And you know, I was in the Trump administration during the pandemic, and I haven't interacted with him personally in a lot, but enough that the previous administration would never change its mind.
You know that one guy from Navalny's group single-handedly brought the VPN and proxies to all of Europe and Russia. You know that one guy from Navalny's group single-handedly bring the VPNs and proxies to all of Europe, as in like brought VPNs to Europe and Russia, or so what are you trying to say?
The previous administration was sure of itself and would continue. He was in a meeting where he said, I want to go down this path. And we'd actually talked about that and explained.
Oh, it was his business. Okay, got you. All right. Yeah. It just sucks, dude. Like, because a lot of Russian politics right now is literally like, people complain about like American politics being oligarchical, but like, trust me, the amount of money that's in Russian politics is like, it dwarfs whatever's in American politics. It's crazy. Because any Russian politician you see is like some sort of oligarch or some sort of like corrupt businessman or whatever. It's just so like, it's just so cancer.
And Mr. President,
almost every VPN service from the mid 2010s could be true. Okay, that's a whole different thing.
We understand. We went down that path. We do think if we come around at this approach on the pandemic, it would be more effective. And he went, yeah, good, makes sense. And again, seeing the difference in the two leadership styles was very encouraging to me, is that you can make a good argument and succeed. Think about Mar-a-Lago, in May of 2017, when Xi Jinping came to the U.S. to pretty much, tell the Americans that you will not step out of line. During Mar-a-Lago, the president and the national security staff decided to send 57 Tomahawk missiles on the base in Syria that attacked its own people with gas under the Obama administration, violating Obama's red line. So what President Trump told Xi Jinping is, one, we're not afraid to act, and two, we're not afraid to act while you're in the room, right? And the message was received. PRC aggressive action went way down. Now, where are we today?
All right, give me 2 minutes. I'm gonna go make myself a coffee. I'll be back. Right, back.
again, I'm not in this administration, but I will tell you that the president does think at a level higher than just the surface of what you're seeing. There are definitely 2 and 3 layers of thought below
Okay,
that.
okay. I wanted to talk to you about New Zealand's anti-nuclear policy. There was a discussion raised recently. Our Defence Minister said that we should have a conversation about the nuclear propulsion element of that policy, because as you know, I think you tried to come out here once and it didn't work because we'd suspended military training between the two countries over that mid-80s legislation. What do you make in the current world where we've got an AUKUS agreement coming, which will have nuclear-powered Australian subs at some point? What do you make of New Zealand's anti-nuclear policy? Does it make sense to you?
It's not for me to judge. You know, you're a sovereign nation and you feel strongly about
That's
that.
the
You've got
correct
enough
answer,
energy
actually.
here in geothermal to guarantee you don't have to accept either nuclear power or nuclear weapons, which nuclear power can create the material for, right? Plutonium and the rest. So I am not going to sit in judgment of your policy. As I say, your geopolitical position in the world means that you can, I mean, that's a safe place for.
Also, Gandhi, if you're still in chat, are there any like people in Russia currently in the lib space that are like good in your eyes? That's like the best way I can put it. Like anybody, like, do you see a future for Russian liberal democracy, or is it just over ever since Navalny?
The New Zealand people, until the New Zealand democratic process changes that. Again, I'm not going to throw stones or sit in judgment. If there were a major problem in New Zealand, and you know, our military, our Navy, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers for sure, are major cities, and they can produce more energy, electricity, and water than, I mean, like a major city. They can produce a lot. And we have done that, like in the 2004 tsunami in Indonesia. If you needed that capability here, I would ask New Zealand how you feel about accepting. Would that change your mind? Again, and that's up to you if you want the capability.
I'm personally in deep belief that for most of people, the lack of personal freedoms comes due to the simple reality that not so many of us, except for engineers, science, and programmers, can't afford the. I agree with you. If you look at any liberal democracy that was ever set up, it was always the middle class asking the oligarchs and the people on the top, like, fuck off, leave us alone, we want to do our own shit. Like, man, I truly feel bad for you Russians, because ever since the October Revolution, you guys have never had a choice in leadership. The communists came in, they dictated, the party dictated everything, and after the communists with Yeltsin, it was always the oligarchs who dealt with everything. Like, it's just been a never-ending shit show for you guys for a whole century, ever since the collapse of the empire. But yeah, I agree with you that, like, when it comes to like liberal thought, it's usually like the middle class and like the educated who usually want it, because it's more of a thing they've experienced other things and they have like the wealth to like not just look after their day-to-day living stuff, and they also want more than that.
Then you do whatever you have to do legislative-wise.
Do you think New Zealand may be forced to change?
No, I think, again, I have no personal stake. I don't think the U.S. has any personal stake in New Zealand's nuclear policy. If you want defense cooperation and you invite us out, and then you ask difficult questions.
The middle class is always the key to any revolution. I think they call it elite overproduction, where there's too many people overqualified to be in their lead, but there's not enough places. Yeah, no, yes, Simon, I think is you and me both come from liberal backgrounds, so we understand the basic theories. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the reason why the French Revolution was the first one to pop off, because they had the most. The word bourgeoisie came from somewhere, right? Like the whole petite bourgeoisie, the little bourgeoisie. You had a lot of those people who wanted more and more civil liberties from the central government. The liberals currently not represent politically same as everyone except maybe communists. That's crazy. Yeah. But like but remember, like, as much as it sucks, because we always want to think that the average person's the good guy and, you know, the elites are the bad guys, like, autocracies are elected by the people's will. Like, the reason why Putin is still even in power and there's no like mass unrest is because some people do actually want him in power. Same thing in India with Modi. Like, Modi's got a lot of authoritarian tendencies and nationalist tendencies, but the people have his back. Trump, although his popularity is waning, like, the MAGA cult is very much behind him. Like, you have to remember, like, autocracy is actually elected, but it's always by the people who want those leaders in power. But obviously there is stuff like repression and whatever, but that is a whole different thing.
That we, by our own policy, cannot answer, then you should expect it.
the English and the American. Yeah, that too. Well, I think the American, like the English one with Oliver Cromwell and the Magna Carta being signed previously built a foundation for it, but like the English had a kind of a cultural tie to their monarch, and like it was really Oliver Cromwell that broke absolutism's back in England, because it was the first time, I wouldn't even say the only time in history, where the crown and the people were like, okay, this is crazy. We, the crown, will limit ourselves, and you, the people, will get rights. We need to get these people out of here. These military like generals and all this stuff. We need to like make a framework. But the American Revolution was like one of the few like after France was like the next like liberal revolution, because it was like purely a revolution based on ideals, but it was taxation without representation. That was the thing. People, a lot of libertarians in America talk about the taxation part, but it was really the without representation part. Like the Americans didn't have a. I won't speak too strongly about this because A, I'm not an American, and B, I wasn't in the 1780s, so I can't. It's my first hand experience. But for me, I think a lot of the Americans didn't actually care about the taxes as much as they did about the representation. It's close to that, but I think the engineers and international specialists are the whole new sort of people who weren't around. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you, Ganju.
The result.
What about Five Eyes? Do you think that that is challenged by the America First doctrine? Of course, Five Eyes, for those who don't know, is the intelligence sharing arrangement between the Anglosphere countries, I guess.
Like, if you can't compete with the best in the specialities and didn't require any particular connection to do some state or citizenship, yeah. Because from what I understand, a lot of qualified Russians are just leaving Russia. Because obviously Russia's not giving them what they want, and they're leaving to places like Poland, Germany. I think Turkey too. And some people are going to South Korea and Japan. But I know a lot of qualified Russians, especially draft dodgers, are leaving to foreign countries before their shit gets fucked.
Do you think that is challenged by the Trump doctrine?
I don't think so. As specifically an intelligence sharing mechanism, we all bring different capabilities to the table. There's no reason to do anything different, to keep, except maybe expand it.
You'd expand it out to what, Japan?
Or...
Oh, fuck. If you ain't Steve Jobs, then you in reality can't offer anything abroad, and you being a nobody. The first thing George Washington did was the crash of whiskey tax. The whiskey rebellion. I remember this. And obviously not. I wasn't personally there, but I remember reading about it. And sent the Continental Army first thing they did since the independence from Britain. Yeah. So you would have to say in your home country, even if it's in a state. Yeah. No, to be fair, you have to understand, businessmen actually have the least tradable skills, unless you have a lot of capital. If you have a lot of money to set up in another place, you can. People who have educations and jobs have an easier time finding residency in other countries, because obviously if there's vacancy, if there's low unemployment, you can find a job, and that's a skill you can easily trade economically. But like businessmen have a harder time because there's a whole infrastructure, there are connections, there are suppliers you have in your local region, and to move all of that to another location is the reason why when companies, even in the States, want to go from California to Texas, it takes a while to make the transition. But like generally speaking, you're correct. Like if you're just kind of a nobody, it's kind of hard to migrate.
For sure. Yeah.
And they're interested, aren't they?
Again, there's a issue with protecting classified, which of course we're not pure on, with Snowden and the rest. So we all have to do better on that. But I'd love to see it expand, because we're all facing the same threat. Of course, the side that you share with has to be reliable and has to commit to it and not politicize it. That's the whole point of intelligence, is to keep it out of that.
The Five Eyes intelligence services always share information no matter how the governments are getting along with each other. They don't care who the governments is, their spy agencies. Yeah, like this is a big thing that was supposed to keep on, even like when agreements are made, they're made regardless of government. So like it doesn't matter how outwardly antagonistic governments are, for the most case, cooperation still exists. Now maybe the level of cooperation changes depending on the governments, but like that doesn't break, because those kind of agreements, once you start like fucking around with them, it creates a really bad environment for diplomacy, no matter what. Yeah. But like, these things don't change, relatively speaking, because these are long-term relationships. And I think actually the people in these agencies, if someone from the executive branch in the States told them, hey, we should stop doing this, like they'll just tell them to fuck off, because if they got their own thing, it's a very like separate thing from the executive and legislative branches.
But no, I don't. I like it. When I was in Beijing, we would do Five Eyes meetings all the time and just kind of have a conversation about what we're seeing and doing about it, and it was productive.
How would you assess the relationship between the two countries? It's obvious, New Zealand and America. I also ask that because in current times that's been tested by the Iran war too, which was deeply opposed by New Zealand according to the polling. So I just wonder how you see that relationship at the moment.
Now, two things. One, what have you done for me lately? In the end, international affairs are driven by realpolitik.
What do you mean, what have you done for me lately?
Relationships are all give and take, right? It can't be one way.
And do you think that New Zealand isn't giving enough at the moment?
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, as we talk about a relationship, we should make sure both sides understand that it's a quid pro quo. The basis of diplomacy is reciprocity. People forget that.
Sure. Well, I could ask you. So what have you done for me recently?
That's fine. Ask away. What we've done.
Because the last time I looked, you smashed a pretty massive tariff on a free trade country.
Yeah.
You smashed us with a huge tariff.
America needs to wake up, man. Like, the whole point of soft power. Ironically enough, these kind of alliances for great powers, for bigger powers, it is a give relationship, not a take. Like, you're always just giving. Because the idea is you want to convince the smaller powers in your bloc that you gain a lot by being with us. So stay with us. Like, the Americans understood this in the Cold War. I don't know why they threw their brains in the gutter. Ever since Bill Clinton, left office. Like, it's supposed to be a give. And, maybe give us something afterwards. Because the idea is you want to tie people to your block and make them feel like they're safe and welcome, basically. And there's more that they get out of this kind of agreement than they lose. Yeah. Like, for example, America gives Egypt money carte blanche. They just give Egypt money to stop fucking with their allies, especially I think it had to do a lot with Israel when they first started giving money to Egypt. But it's also to keep Egypt away from the Soviets too.
Read the Council of Economic Advisors, Steve Myron, on the desire for balanced trade, and this is what this is about. Access to markets and the rest. Tariffs are maybe not the best tool, but they're a lot better and more useful in dealing with the PRC, during Chinese.
They are, but that's why targeted tariffs should have been done, just like how they had been done in the Obama-Biden presidency. I don't know why Trump did what he did.
Whatever else we had before. But let me just say this. In regard to adversaries, not friends, but in regard to adversaries, the PRC has us chasing this relationship laser pointer all over the place. When I was there in 11 to 13, my job was to make them like us. We called this the ardent suitor period, where it didn't matter how badly they offended us or punched us in the face or made my life in China difficult. I had to continue to go back to the government and try to make them like us through showing them things that we probably wouldn't.
So how does this relate to our...
Because excessive focus on relationship misses the whole point about interstate engagement. Like I said, the basis of interstate engagement is reciprocity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
On that positive note.
This shit was so retarded. This guy's obviously more pro-Trump and stuff, so he's gonna deep throat a lot of his shit. But it was relatively okay, I guess. That's the best way I can put it. In Ukraine, there's a whole sort of people who's programmers, graphic designers, etc. They can do remote working. They're stuck in their houses for more than 4 years already. Yeah, but to be fair too, I think Ukraine has more stricter laws when it comes to people leaving the country because obviously they need every able-bodied man to fight in the war. So I don't really blame them too much. I think I've heard a lot of stories of a lot of educated Russians leaving the country. I don't know. This could be false, so let me know, Ganju. But I've heard a lot of educated Russians are leaving the country a lot ever since the war and finding refuge in a lot of Eastern European countries. I think specifically Poland. I think Poland and Germany are big ones. Yeah, this is correct about Egypt, but it is stated a lot earlier when Anwar Sadat became president, anti-Soviet pivot to the, it was kind of there was a lot of things going on, but that money was a part of the package deal about saying, hey, Egypt, stop being stupid as fuck and come over to the awesome side. I think that's the money was just a part of it. Anwar Sadat was the only Arab leader to defeat Israel in one of the wars and won back. Yeah, the Sinai Peninsula. Like, yeah, there was a whole diplomatic like back and forth during that time. I think it was the Yom Kippur War. I think it was the Yom Kippur War, right? Because the 6-day war, the Israelis got to Sinai, and the Yom Kippur War, they gave it back to Egypt to like reconciliate. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
So Russians are now acknowledging that they do not have enough air defense systems to cover the gaps created by Ukraine.
Oh, God. They haven't come back at the start. It was a few millions, and from them around a couple thousand if it came back. Okay, cool. So basically that was like a huge wave first, Ganju, and now it's just like a trickle, but still people are like going away, right? Do you know if there's like a specific country they're going to? Because from what I've heard, it's Germany, Poland, and the Baltic states. A lot of the Russians are fleeing to in Europe, and I think some are going to Japan and South Korea, but I could be wrong on that. Yes, correct. And he tricked the Syrian to join the war. Yeah, I remember this. And yeah, I think isn't that the war they got the Golden Heights on, the Yom Kippur War, because they left the Syrians, the Jordanians in the dust or something like that. A couple 100,000. Okay, yeah.
In other words, we should expect more successful Ukrainian strikes on more high-value targets more often. And for a military in a nation at war like Russia.
Oh, Montenegro, Serbia, Paraguay. The Paraguay one's weird. I get it because they're very politically neutral in the world stage. Montenegro and Serbia, I get. Montenegro is a bit interesting. I would have never thought Montenegro. Oh, okay.
This is the type of thing that can quickly spiral out of control, and we might already be seeing the early signs of that, as fuel restrictions have now impacted 89 different.
Popular option, and of course, the popular opinion, and of course, Kazakhstan, and the Caucasus regions. The Caucasus one doesn't really make sense. I get Kazakhstan, but even then, I don't know why he's using educated Russia to go to Kazakhstan. But I swear, because I remember one of the reports I read when it came to leaving Russians, a lot of them did go to the EU countries. But maybe I might be wrong on that. Maybe it was another thing.
Regions across Russia. In fact, there was a Ukrainian strike shown here on the screen on the Slovyansky oil refinery 2 days ago that I think is a perfect example of what's happening right now in the war. Russia's inability to protect key infrastructure that has already been...
Georgia, Armenia, quite nice. Yeah, they're quite nice, but like... the Russian state has done a lot to Georgia. The whole Abkhazia thing. So I don't know why Georgians will be welcoming to Russians. Armenia I can get because Armenia is technically like an ally of Russia. But ever since the Karabakh stuff, I don't know if that's the same. Very easy to come for the Russians. Okay. Cause I thought the Georgians wouldn't really like Russians ever since Abkhazia and like the 2014 stuff. Was it 2014? I think 2014 is when they made Abkhazia. But yeah.
Targeted, and the ensuing fuel crisis steadily spreading across the country. Some additional details on this refinery strike. The Unmanned Systems Force...
Georgians have a love-hate relationship with Russians, but they're mostly nice? Okay, got you. Oh, is it like a thing of like, the whole thing of like they hate the government but not the people? Is it kind of like that? Where it's like, we're okay with Russian people, but like if we ever see Putin in real life, we're sliming him immediately.
Of Ukraine said that this was 300 kilometers from Ukraine's border. It has an annual capacity of approximately 5.2 million tons.
Because there was no time, Georgia, Armenia without a major diaspora of Russians. Okay, all right. Yeah, because I think that Stalin was Georgian, wasn't he? Proud Georgian.
And provides fuel and lubricants to the Russian armed forces. Some additional data here is that specific refinery accounts for around 9% of oil refining in Russia's southern federal district and is one of the country's major exporters of petroleum products through Black Sea ports. And we should note, and this is important, that exact refinery was already hit, or at least targeted by Ukraine on April 27th and May 19th of 2024. It's a known target. And even if it hadn't already been hit, it's a refinery in Russia. Everyone around the world knows what's happening right now, especially inside of Russia. For them to not have the ability to protect key infrastructure in the
Also, Ganju, are there any like oil refineries in Voronezh? Because if there are, you might not be safe. Because the Ukrainians have been striking a lot of these oil refineries, even east of Moscow, so they're definitely in range. There's a guy on NFRZ YouTube channel who's Russian, who was in Portugal, but I'm not sure where he is now. Okay. Oh, is that No Fuckers? The Russian guy. I think you're talking about No Fuckers, right? Because yeah. Oh, yeah, you know, it is No Fuckers, because I'm pretty sure No Fuckers went from Russia to Portugal. Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about.
middle of a worsening fuel crisis shows exactly the current state of Russian air defense. In fact, Russian mil blogger or military correspondent 2 Majors talked about this, where he said, quote, "The perimeter of the plant is huge, and there can be no simple solution for its protection."
Voronezh is in range, but we're not. We don't get that much of military objects as other regions. Okay, got you. All right. You're safe then. I think that I really like this channel. Oh, this channel, yeah. Preston Stewart, he does really good coverage on Ukraine stuff. Like he's been doing it like ever since the war popped off, basically. And it's just non-stop stuff, and he does really good coverage. He brings on a lot of people who are like directly talking to certain units in Ukraine or who are in Ukraine themselves. He does some really good stuff, and especially in like fundraising stuff too. Like he'll link a lot of stuff for fundraising for like upgrading Ukrainian military stuff or buying certain units, some stuff, and like their donation goes double. They always get double what they asked for. It's really good. This channel is some really good stuff.
The enemy attacks with multiple drones simultaneously coming from different sides, which in fact obliges us to organize circular defense. If we take the extensive path of organizing defense,
the EU is starting to count on Russians coming into Europe right now. Yeah, like I might, again, as I said, I might be completely wrong. Maybe it's a different diaspora group I was thinking about, but like I think that a lot of those Russians, some of them, were going to places like Germany or Hungary or the Baltic countries from Russia. But yeah, like Gandra said, Montenegro, like Serbia, I understand because there's like a big relationship between Serbia and Russia. Montenegro was a bit of a weird one, and Paraguay too. Well, Paraguay I kind of understand. It's pretty politically neutral as like a state.
It would take thousands of people on constant duty.
And Germany already has like a big diaspora of Russians already.
Infinite number of important objects in the country. This is hardly possible at all. But it's already getting on our nerves to regularly watch the footage of the burning refinery, often the same one. So what he's saying is thousands of people needed for each key location. And as he points out, there is an infinite number of important objects, so it is hardly possible at all. And he's not even the only one we're going to get into today, talking about how Russia does not have the ability to protect everything from Ukrainian drones all at once. That's a problem. Like, this genuinely could spiral for Russia very quickly. And it's worth noting that these are not surprise attacks, right? These are areas that Russia knows is being targeted, in this case, already hit before, and we've seen this time and time again.
Number one is Georgia for the refugees. Okay, got you. Even more than in Kazakhstan. Yeah, the Kazakhstan stuff is interesting because I know Putin tried to coup the government a while back and he failed. So Kazakhstan's interesting, but their alphabet isn't Cyrillic too, just like the Russian one, so it would make sense. It'd probably be an easy transition for Russians to move to Kazakhstan. Georgia, I can understand. If the Georgian people have like a hate the government but love the people mentality, then I can understand why Georgia would be pretty fun.
Where a refinery gets hit, and then the next day gets hit again. Good luck explaining with any straight face why Russia is not moving air defense assets or the necessary defense assets in to protect that. They know it's a target, it gets hit, verifies that it's a target, some damage has been done, they still do nothing, it gets hit again, taking it further out of commission. In fact, a great example of this right now, I think, is the flamingo strikes that's been happening, the migration of the FP5 flamingos in recent days. This is the Ukrainian domestically designed and manufactured cruise missile. And we have seen it just recently strike a plant producing equipment for Russian missiles and missile launchers.
Also, Ganja, this is a question for you. Do you see like a lot of military stuff in your city? Like, do you see like military patrols or like people in uniform around, or is it like pretty quiet in Voronezh? Because I want to know like how paranoid the Russian military is right now.
So a defense production facility inside of Russia hit by Ukraine's domestically manufactured cruise missile. And a lot of folks, and this is accurate, will say, hey, modern air defenses are not designed to deal with swarms of drones or small, cheap drones. You're right. It's an issue that we have in the United States as well that we're trying to get around. It's a major issue. The proliferation of these cheap mass production drones is a real problem yet to be resolved. But here's the thing. The Flamingo is not a small, cheap drone. It is a large, slow cruise missile. Russian air defenses are expected, we have long thought, would be able to defend at least to a degree against cruise missiles, something like the U.S. Tomahawk, right? The Tomahawk is faster and smaller than the Flamingo. The Flamingo is like a bus moving through. We got footage of the thing. So if those are getting through, it shows the current state of Russian air defense. And this is highlighted again by a Russian mill blogger, Military Informant, who says, quote, Russia actually has no way to obtain additional air defense systems to cover the gaps that have appeared due to the sharply increased daily raids. In turn, Ukraine continues to increase the production of inexpensive strike weapons with the help of allies in the EU and the United States. This is actually a point I'd like to press home. Somebody asked recently, what should we be doing to assist Ukraine? And I think this is a great example. We should be outsourcing the production of Ukrainian drones to our European allies, maybe even here in the United States. I don't know if logistically that makes sense, but a lot of these drones that Ukraine is manufacturing are under, I mean, there was one a few days ago that got hit. One of the facilities, I believe, got hit by a Russian missile. So they're trying to manufacture these in volume in secret locations in a time of war. What if we just moved those out and a joint partnership was struck up between Ukraine and Poland, or Ukraine and NATO even, right? We can do it in a number of countries, Ukraine and France, Ukraine and the UK, Ukraine and the United States. And there's a joint venture. It provides jobs to our country or the country that's hosting it. These locations have not been targeted by Russia in the past. Maybe they decide to go that route, but if they're not going after Patriot manufacturing facilities or staging facilities in Poland, why would this all of a sudden be any different? And it would allow Ukraine to ramp up the volume of these drones exponentially. Just saying, I feel like there's a possible win-win there. Either way, Military Informant says the only solution right now is to ramp up the production of inexpensive mass interceptor drones. And you'll note he doesn't talk about, more S-300s or more S-400s or more Pantsers, because those are expensive and they're falling by the day. Just today, Ukraine put out additional footage saying that between June 27th and 29th,
with money, you can easily move to Montenegro. All you need to buy is an apartment, and you get the equivalent of a green card. Okay, got you. Oh, that's probably why, yeah. It's probably a money requirement, and that makes sense with Montenegro. Because Serbia, I could definitely get. There's a big relationship between Russia and Serbia. The Montenegro one does make sense, though. If you have money, you can just buy your way in. Yeah, that makes sense.
They carried out additional strikes in Crimea that destroyed a Russian Pantsir air defense system, ST-68 radar, and a Podlet radar. These are not inexpensive. These are not easily replaceable. These should not be falling as fast as they are. If this was the United States and we were losing 3 air defense systems in one location a day, or one a month, as we're seeing play out so far this month, or one per day this month, that's an insane loss rate for a valuable asset like air defense. The Unmanned Systems Force has added to their statistics here with verifiable footage saying they have taken out 31 Russian air defense assets so far this month alone. Again, more than one per day. They say they've hit 194 so far this year. That includes 276 so far this year. It includes 169 anti-aircraft missile systems and anti-aircraft gun systems.
Will you forgive Charlie Kirk if he changes? I can't forgive Charlie Kirk. I can never do it because
We are Charlie Kirk.
If he changes, how can I be him too?
76 radar stations and 31 electronic warfare systems. Equipment in war does get destroyed. It happens, right? Nothing is invincible. The volume of air defense assets exiting the battle space every single day, every week, every month, every year is unsustainable for Russia, and we are seeing the direct result of that right now. As Military Informant said, Russia does not have the ability to obtain additional air defense systems to cover these gaps. They don't. They're trying to ramp up small-scale interceptors, but the fact that we're seeing Flamingos and FP2s get through on a regular basis shows just how challenging.
Have you ever heard We're George Floyd? Oh, man. Are we George Floyd? The Fenton Menace?
this is a spiraling situation for Russia. It's not clear how they're going to stop this, and it directly affects, you can see the immediate impact is the fuel shortages spreading across the country. Again, turning to a Russian source on this, military informant, says there are now fuel problems in 89 different regions of Russia. Quote, most of...
Was it correct me if I'm wrong, Ganju, but like Voronezh is like near here, right? Like near this region? Because like, this is Moscow. I think Yaroslav is like here. I think, isn't Voronezh like somewhere down here? Voronezh is a mid-south part. So like here? This is, I think, Penza. I think is what it's called. Penza's here. I think Voronezh what here? A bit west. Okay, got you. Okay, cool. Yeah. Just want to test my geography.
The regions have introduced restrictions on the sale of fuel in terms of the number of liters or a ban on refueling into canisters. He said and we have footage of this, people starting to stockpile and panic because they're not having fuel available. He said the situation is much worse in Crimea and the new territories, so Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, where problems with the availability of fuel are caused not so much by strikes on refining in Russia, by strikes on logistics. The fuel simply does not reach the consumer, or it arrives with serious delays and in smaller quantities. That one, talk about how this is going to have an effect on the front. All right? There's not like some secret passageway to get fuel into the occupied territories or into Crimea. You don't have like the civilian route and the military route. There's one route. Like they're all on the same roads, right? So when some of it is not reaching, it means all of it is starting to see a decrease, and any reduction in fuel to the front lines will have a direct impact on combat operations. He says, as a result, we have a huge snowball effect, seeing a fuel shortage in some regions caused by strikes on logistics and refining. The population of other regions rightly assumes that the situation will soon affect them too, so it is necessary to urgently stockpile. Against this backdrop, many expect that the situation will only get worse. And how do people think? Either the fuel will become even more expensive, so it's necessary to buy it while it's still cheap, or it will simply start to disappear, and therefore it's necessary to buy it while it's still available. In other words, panic buying. There's panic buying of fuel in Russia right now.
Yeah, Ganju, is like, could you just let me know, like, what like before the war started, what was your fuel price, and like what is it right now, or has the price not changed but there's no supply of it? Because I want to know how it affects you in Voronezh. Because obviously if you're in the front lines or whatever, I get it, but like in your local area, what were like the fuel prices before the war, and what are they right now? Because I want to see how much of a difference it actually has been happening.
Never thought I'd be saying that. He wraps up by saying, together, the refining crisis due to strikes, the frenzy against this backdrop, and the speculation on the oil market leads to a shortage and a sharp rise in its prices, which will inevitably affect all prices soon. I'm not an economist. I'm not an oil gas expert.
Ukraine is hella corrupt country, but the war as a whole doesn't just... Yeah. Well, obviously, that's like corruption in a country is not justification to go to war, obviously. I'm glad that you're a sane Russian, you know? I've met so many that are a bit... off their rocker. But yeah, what were your gas prices before the war and after? Like, what are they currently? Like, I want to compare them if they've changed much.
A long shot. It's all pretty confusing to me, but fuel prices affect everything. And I think we learned that pretty clearly with the Strait of Hormuz, learned that a couple other times throughout our history. We are seeing that right now in Russia. There are stations, like there was a report earlier today, and it's a small thing, but just think of what this means. Taxi drivers not driving. Because they're like, well, we can't take rides over certain distances because we might not be able to refill with fuel. They said they're spending more time in lines than they are driving passengers around, so they're losing money. When that starts to impact other areas of the economy, other sectors of the country, There's a real snowball effect at play right now. And at some point, you have to expect this is already playing out. Putin, the Kremlin leadership, have to start making a decision on not just which areas of the country get fuel and who's prioritized. Is the Kremlin? Is it Siberia, right? We know which direction that's going. What about the military versus civilians? And that decision, having to make a determination who gets the resources during war, military or the population, is a lose-lose situation. There's no good way to work your way out of that situation. And this is exactly where Putin is finding himself in more and more each day. And then really excited to share with you guys a new collaboration that we just rolled out with Ziggus Paw. So we've got some shirts, exclusive designs, not available anywhere else. Shirts and posters.
That's fire. Is that just a fuck ton of drones? You can watch an interview with former Ukrainian President Peter Poroshenko, and he himself admits that he's very glad about the war finally started because he was preparing Ukrainian military. Yeah, no, I remember 2014. The Ukrainians just gave up Crimea because they couldn't do anything. They weren't ready. No Ukrainian genuinely thought that Russia would actually invade Ukraine. They always felt Russian, Slavic brothers. We're whatever. We have our problems, but 2014 was big, and ever since 2014, Ukraine had been gearing up for war, and he did everything in his power. Yeah, the reason why Ukraine's even able to stand on its two legs is ever since 2014, Ukraine's been militarized. If you Ganju, if you can just link me that in chat, I'll watch it now because I'm actually interested in that. Or just give me the words I need to search up to find the video. Also, Simon, since you're a reoccurring viewer, I'll let you know, and Ganji, you're in chat too, so I'll let you know. But either today or tomorrow, I'm gonna set up a Discord for this community because I've been getting a couple of reoccurring viewers, mostly for just kind of community stuff and politics stuff. Because one of my things I want to do later on in streams is have voice channels where you guys can wait in if you want to ask questions or you want to debate a topic, and I can drag you in to talk with me about it on stream. So if you guys are interested in that, I'm just letting you know now. So I'm planning to make that Discord group either today or tomorrow, depending on how tired I am today, which I am pretty fucking tired. But yeah, because I want to do some more community interaction stuff when it comes to politics, because obviously it's not just a reacting to videos thing. Talking to different perspectives and getting people's opinions on certain things is also pretty fun. Is this the one, by the way, Ganju? Is this what you're talking about? This thing here? Based. I think it's this one. I don't know if this is the one you wanted to see, Ganju, but
Good afternoon here in Washington. Good late evening in Kiev and elsewhere in Europe. My name is John Herbst. I run the Eurasia Center at the Atlantic Council. I have the honor today of speaking with President Petro Poroshenko, who, of course, was president in Ukraine shortly after Moscow began its war on Ukraine in 2014. And I've had the honor of knowing, my goodness, for 21 years. When he began, well, not when he began, but when he was in the midst of his career, which led to the presidency, a career we had virtually every senior position in the Ukrainian government. So I will leave it as that as an introduction. Well, actually, I should say that when he became president in late May of 2014, he immediately successfully rallied his people in response to Moscow's aggression. This was, of course, 3+ months after the Russians seized Crimea, and maybe 6 or 7 weeks after they began their war in Donbass. And literally, within 2.5 months of his taking the presidency, Ukrainian forces had almost kicked Russia completely out of Donbass, at which point they sent in the regular army to prevent that from happening. So with that, I'll begin our conversation. And again, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here in Washington. So first, how would you describe the state of the war right now?
First of all, I'm very happy to see all of you here. I'm missing you because I was not in Washington for quite a long period of the time because I don't have a permission to leave Ukraine as a leader of the opposition. And I want to thank John, Ambassador, and Atlantic Council for this unique opportunity. This is extremely important for me. Why it's vital to be now in Washington? Because This is not simply a busy day. This is a decisive day for the future of Ukraine. And this situation, we have an extremely difficult situation on the front line. And at the same time, very new opportunities. What is the three phase of the war? Of wide-scale war. Not 11 years war, but war with its 1,000 days. First, it was stage of the demolition war. When Putin sent the troops, it was around 200,000 troops. And when we stop them, and when we find out what they are delivering to Ukraine, it was the parade uniform with all the records, motivation flag, and they go to celebrate the victory. What at that time stopped Russian troops? Just 4 kilometers from Kiev. First is the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers, the unity of Ukrainian people. Second, javelin from US. And third,
Let's stop the Russians. Patriotism. And the javelin missile.
Stinger and Bayraktar. I know what I'm talking about because I am keeping both javelin and love and know how effective it was. Russia simply was not prepared for that. Russia do not attack hospital, object of the critical energy infrastructure because they want to keep it for themselves. They think that Ukraine will welcome that. And we call this period demolition. Then it was the phase of the counteroffensive. It started in April 2022 when they threw Russia away from Kiev. What was the factor for the effective counteroffensive? Two things: bravery of Ukrainian soldiers and unity of Ukrainian people, and HIMARS. With the HIMARS, we destroy the storage of the ammunition, we destroy the center for making decision, and we threw Russia away from Kherson and Kharkiv region. Great success. And then it starts third phase at the beginning of 2023, which is lasting until now. This is attrition, where the military factor is not so important. And Putin want to destroy the nation. Think that we cannot win the battle of time. The situation at the front line is not having any significant changes. Putin and we pay a very high price. We cannot outman Putin. Why? Because he has a significantly bigger mobilization and manpower resource. We have less than 1 million. Putin has 25 million. Putin has more money. Do you know how much money Putin planned for the state budget as a military budget for the year 2025? $143 billion.
Damn. A lot of fucking money. Holy shit, that's half of the Ukrainian loan that's going to be given by the EU. Jesus Christ.
And this is 33% bigger than in the year 2024. And this is almost 10% of the GDP, compared with the European expenditure for the military, or even American. Ukraine received for the military budget less than 50 billion. Putin almost 150. How we can fight? This is not from our taxpayers. This is all together with the partners. We cannot outman, but we should outsmart, out-technology, and out-motivation. And no one single moment in this.
It's in Russian? Maybe some subtitles, hopefully. Please, God, let there be subtitles. Fuck. Maybe what I can do... Maybe I can use AI to transcript it. Wait, give me a second. Because I'll just read the transcript. All right, I think this is it over here. He was talking about that he chose to make an agreement only to prepare his army and provoke the war to start. So Western preparation and the prank. The narrator opens by stating that the West heavily prepared for current events in Ukraine. They introduce a new reevaluation exposing the deceitful nature of the Kiev regime brought to light by the Russian prankster Vovon and Alexis. The duo called former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, pretending to be the former U.S. ambassador to Russia, to discuss Minsk agreements. I believe that this is a very talented written document. I needed these Minsk agreements to get at least 4.5 years to form the Ukrainian armed forces, build the Ukrainian economy, and train the Ukrainian military alongside NATO to create the best armed forces in Eastern Europe, trained by NATO into NATO standards. The host returns, stating that this serves as direct confirmation that Kiev never intended to fully fulfill the agreements. Instead, this document, which the international community hoped would bring regional stability, was used by the Ukrainians solely to buy time. Is this a good representation of what this video is about? Because I'm guessing this is a pro-Russian source. I'm guessing because of the way they talk about stuff. But yeah, like the Minsk agreements, like even Russia was breaking them a lot of times. So like both sides kind of knew that this is bullshit to begin with, but the Ukrainians wanted to use that as buying time. Nah, he is not pro-Russian. The transcript's coming off a bit. Maybe it's just because the transcript is just like not doing justice. He just spoke up. Okay, got you. Yeah, but like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, Ukraine wanted to use the Minsk agreement basically to like make sure, because like diplomacy is one thing, but diplomacy is kind of hard to do with the Russian state because Putin really doesn't respect. It wasn't pro-Russian media. Okay, I got you. But yeah, like this basically makes sense. Like the Ukrainians used the time between the Minsk agreements to militarize and to make sure that even if the Russians do invade, which they probably would have, and they did, the Ukrainians would have the ability to actually defend themselves. Because like an agreement is one thing, but also the deterrence of an actual military is another thing too. But yeah, it's a good video. A little sad that I don't actually understand Russian. I would have loved to watch the video, but yeah.
War, I was not an optimist. So I was an optimist because it's impossible to be the president or the leader of the country in a state of war and not to believe in the victory. What is the other factor which is important? You know how much Shahid attack drones Ukraine were attacked in October? 1,704.
Holy fuck!
No country in the world can have an effective air defense against such a big number of attacking drones, which have a range more than 2,000 kilometers.
Jesus.
War is changed. Tank or one personal carrier or even air carrier is not so important. Long-range missile, radio electronic warfare system, unmanned drones, these type of things. When I can
more like the war started because Ukraine was ruined by corruption, and the best solution to this was to start a confrontation with Russia to live off from the EU support of Ukraine. I don't know so much about that. Because like Russia already had certain designs in Ukrainian territory, and I forget when the Minsk agreements were signed. Were they signed before 2014 or after 2014? But like the Russians took Crimea. The Ukrainians couldn't really do much about it because the military wasn't ready. So they just backed off and they took time to build up their military, and now obviously we're living in the lifetime we are after. Yeah. So like the agreement was made, like the Ukrainians kind of knew they needed time. Like they needed time to build up everything because Russia already had a military in their own state and everything. So the Ukrainians would have used the Minsk agreements to basically start to, in 2015, yeah. Yeah, like for me, like I think it's a perspective thing, but like for me, it's pretty obvious that the Ukrainians just wanted to buy time so that they could build up their military infrastructure and train their military alongside NATO, and hopefully tie themselves more to NATO equipment and everything. Which is why, like, whenever the Ukrainians receive military assistance from the West, they can actually easily use a lot of the stuff because they're already trained on a lot of the material. But yeah. Like, Ukraine was a corrupt country, but ever since 2014, that kind of, even in 2011, it kind of started going down because they started doing more measures against it. Like Biden, when he was the vice president to Obama, he led a lot of the efforts, the anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine.
Destroy a Russian tank, which cost $3 million, with a drone cost $300. And 70% from these attack drones was Iranian. That means Iran is full participant of the war, significant part of the aggressor. Do you know how many missiles we were...
Peter himself admitted that he even for a second didn't even consider a peace agreement, but chose only... I think I would have to see the context of that, but like I'm pretty sure he would have probably said that because like he kind of recognized that the Russians don't want peace. There's no point having peace talks with a partner who doesn't want peace either. Like, if you look at Ukraine and Poland before the war, not the Crimea one, but the current one that's happening, before this war that's happening, the average Ukrainian wanted to be part of the EU, but not NATO. Like, majority of Ukrainians didn't even want to talk about NATO. They just said, we just want to be part of the EU. Like, this war happened because Ukraine didn't want to join the Eurasian Customs Union, the customs union that Russia was leading, and they wanted to join the EU. That was actually the reason for the war.
Attacked in October and November. 217 ballistic missile. 45% of them was North Korean production. That was, without North Korea, Russia definitely would exhaust. And could you imagine that the North Korea and Iran supply to Russia 30% more artillery shells than all the NATO supplied to Ukraine? Unbelievable. Do you know how much cost the artillery?
I personally believe that if the agreements from 2015 wasn't torn apart, then the full-stake war never would have started. You're kind of right, but the problem was like both the Russians and Ukrainians were breaking the Minsk agreements. Both of them. Like Russia was still supporting the rebels in Donetsk and Luhansk, and all their efforts there. Their military crossed the border a couple times. Crimea, obviously. Like both sides weren't adhering to the Minsk agreements. It just wasn't happening. Like the Minsk agreements were just to buy time, from the Ukrainian perspective at least, to like actually fight Russia if they ever came to their doorstep, which they did.
Shell produced in Pennsylvania.
But like in a
more than 5,000.
In the best world, it should have held.
What price North Korea supplied to Russia? Artillery shell. $400. Compare and think how we fight. That's why we should make a significant changes. And these changes should be done with a new opportunity with the president-elect. I know what I'm talking about. I worked with Trump for more than 3 years. I want to remind you that we received the first lethal weapons, Javelin, which I mentioned from the very beginning, from Trump during my first visit to the Oval Cabinet. I want to tell you that I was immediately received the special presidential envoy, Ambassador Kurt Volker, as a presidential representative for implementation Minsk agreement. And by the way, do you know the 5 preconditions for Minsk agreement we agreed together with Kurt, Chancellor Merkel, and President Hollande? It was 5 non-compromise, which is fully included in the Minsk agreement. First, non-compromise on the sovereignty and national identity of Ukraine. We never would be Russian colony again. Second, non-compromise on the territorial integrity of Ukraine. We never give up and never accept any tiny piece of Ukrainian territory beyond the Russian sovereignty. Point number 3, non-compromise on the armed forces of Ukraine. We never accept decrease of the ability of Ukrainian armed forces, which was created by my team, to protect Ukraine. Fourth, non-compromise on sanction. It should be sanction from the hell. The KPI of sanction should be to cut volume of Russian export and to cut Putin's ability to finance the war. And fifth, I do not accept that it would be any limitation for Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. Future, our NATO membership. I want to remind you that Putin attacked Ukraine in the year 2014 when Ukraine was officially under the constitution and legislation was a neutral state. Yep. That's why all this explanation of Putin is just there. You understand me. And I'm proud that I put Euro-Atlantic integration, European integration as a future membership of NATO is obligatory for any government.
Wouldn't take Crimea, but Ukraine with politicians as Poroshenko never have a chance for long-term peace. Putin take Crimea, but Ukraine with politicians. Well, the problem is like, the argument you're making is the opposite. Like, with leaders like Putin, peace can never be found between Russia and Ukraine. Because, like, how do you expect to make peace with a country you just took land from. It's like they took Crimea. It's like, okay, it's over now. We took part of your land. Let's have peace. That's not how that works. You have to start with good faith. Like if you really wanted peace, what Putin should have done is like, hey, you know what? We'll give you back Crimea. Let us continue leasing Sevastopol as a naval base, and we'll have peace between us. But that's not what happened. They took Crimea. They continued to support the separatists in Donetsk and Luhansk, and they kept doing incursions on the border. It takes two good parties to make peace, not just one.
The president of Ukraine as a part of Ukrainian constitution. And with all this situation, I really think that this 5 non-compromise is a very important part for any future point of compromise to stop the war. We should make peace through strength. And that's why I'm here, to make Ukraine stronger with the Democratic administration and with the Republican administration. Because now bipartisan support is so important as never before. And Ambassador put me on the leg that said I should finish. We should make a little bit more time for the Q&A session.
No, we do, but we actually have at least 1 or 2 more questions for you. We have time for plenty of time for Q&A. That tells you when this part of the conversation ends. Okay. Your answer was so comprehensive.
But even if Russia offered Crimea in exchange for a good deal, there wouldn't be a peace agreement. No, what I'm saying is that if there is a peace agreement, like I've talked about this a lot, there are 2 things that happen now. For this war to end, Russia needs to not only give up Crimea. I'm sorry, like after this war, Russia's lost the right to Sevastopol as a naval base. Use Rostov-on-Don or use Novorossiysk, I don't care. If your ships get hurt, okay? It's your problem now. You decided to go to war. The peace deal that should happen now is that Russia should give back Crimea, renounce territorial claims on Ukraine, and now Ukraine has to join NATO. Like, that whole thing, like, Ukraine was a neutral country before this war. I'm sorry, like, you've lost that. If you wanted to stop this war, before the war happened, the peace agreement should have been, we give back Crimea, give us a right to Sevastopol as a naval base, we'll renounce our claims, and we'll pull our support for the separatists in Donetsk and Luhansk. That should have happened before the war. And if you do that, no Ukrainian president would have the right to continue to militarize and be angry against Russia. Because Ukraine's whole point was their economy are going downhill anyway, so their goal is to be an EU ally. Remember, the EU is not a military alliance. It's an economic alliance. Like, as I said, the Crimea is not a deal. I'm sorry, to the Ukrainians it is. Like, it was part of their territory. But the average Ukrainian, before the war started, the polling showed they all supported joining EU. Not that many Ukrainians wanted to support joining NATO. Because they knew that if they joined NATO, it would be a bit antagonistic to Russia. For Poroshenko, it was bait. Maybe for Poroshenko, maybe, but like Crimea was bait. Yeah, maybe. I can't speak too much to it, but like, yeah, if you were to give up Crimea and say, hey, we're gonna give it back to you, give us a peace deal, and we'll have guaranteed peace between both of us. No politician, as much as they would want to, like, war's not gonna happen. But now the war's happening because Russia continued to want to take more and more Ukrainian land.
You answered several of the questions I was going to ask. So I'll jump to this. Now, you just mentioned these 5 compromises, which should be part, or these 5 positions, which should be part of any, not compromise, right, should be part of any durable peace agreement. Some of them are not fully consistent with what we understand about the Trump peace initiative. If you were meeting with President-elect Trump tomorrow, what advice would you have for him regarding the war in Ukraine? But before you answer, for the audience, we're taking questions both for those in-house with us. We have a microphone. For those not in-house, you can send a question in at askac.org. So, Mr. President, over to you.
First of all, I really hope that I meet with President Trump in the near future. And second, what would be my piece of advice? Point number 1, based on my 5 years experience to communicate with Putin. First, obligatory and very strong message. Please, don't trust Putin. Putin, as a KGB officer, was specially trained for one important thing: how to lie.
Yeah, gaslighting.
Please, do not trust Putin. This is important. Not only for the Trump, but for the whole team. Because Putin has a certain charisma, and the person who met him not very often the first time, it seems to me, okay, I reached the agreement. No chance. Why? Because Putin don't need Crimea. Putin absolutely don't need Donbass, or Zaporizhia, or Kherson. Putin need the whole Ukraine. Even though
Ukraine is like a village conglomeration around Kiev, and the EU was their ticket to better existence and huge military deals. Yeah, well, you're actually kind of right there. Like, the reason why a lot of Europe, remember, the war, people forget this, but the war actually started because the Ukrainians denied joining the Eurasian Customs Union that Russia had, which was an exclusive market that Russia controlled, because they wanted to join the EU. Like, it was an economic thing. Because the EU is a better market, is a better economy, and it's better to be attached to the EU than it is to Russia, economically. So you're like half right there. Like, better military deals, better economic deals, they could have found that in the EU, not in the Eurasian Customs Union.
Putin wanted that Ukraine stop exist, and it would be a province of Russia. And that's why not any preliminary agreement can be reached will not satisfy Putin. And there is no any instrument for the guarantee of all the agreement which can be reached with Putin except at the NATO. So please, do not trust Putin. Point number 2. I think that maybe President Trump don't really need it, but just in case, please don't be afraid of Putin. Because Putin understands only one language. I speak with him. And this is not an English language.
I can confirm as an EU citizen that the EU was far better than anything Russia would offer, bit of standard of living, and they do better. Yeah, completely agree, Simon. Like, as I said, like, if you look back into history before the war started, a lot of conversations are being had about the Eurasian Customs Union and the EU deal. And obviously, the Ukrainians were very pro-EU, but if you look at the polling at the time, Ukrainians went pro-NATO. They were just pro-EU. And obviously, this war has made them more pro-NATO. You know about Russia-Ukraine conflict far more than the average Russian. Yeah, like, I'm a big... How I started politics, Ganju, was actually I learned a lot about global politics and geography. Then I learned about, like, economics a lot, because I like economics. It's, like, a big thing I do. But, yeah, I learned those basics things, and then I started moving to more, like, micro stuff. But, yeah, like... Yeah. It's surprising how powerful reading is. If you just do basic reading, you get a big understanding. Like Ganju, because I might end my stream in another half an hour, I want you to go to Twitch, go to different political streamers and ask them questions about the conflict. They will all give you the same copy-pasted answers, because no one actually understands what they're talking about on this fucking website. No one knows what the fuck they're talking about. Like, yeah. Like when you look at politics or stuff that's happening globally, like, people don't do things randomly, you know. Everything is connected, you know. Like, oh, the Ukrainians wanted to join the EU, so Russia invaded them because they wanted to tie Ukrainian economy to Russia. Makes sense, you know. People don't do things like psychopaths. It's only very, very rarely that happens. You're on point, dude. Yeah, dude. Like, this web. It's the reason why I started streaming. Like, someone needs to stop. Ganju, I want you to understand. You followed the right guy, okay? I'm a big Hassan hater. I fucking hate that chud, okay? I hate that guy with all my guts. Hassan example is like room temperature IQ, and you're like Epstein. Okay, I'm thinking you said Einstein, not Epstein, right? Because I don't think I got Epstein IQ. Do the Albert Epstein of politics on Twitch, yeah. Look, I'm in this for the long game. We're gonna build a big community. I want to get Europeans, Americans, Australians, and Kiwis all in one room. All right, that's the idea. Like, I'm not even that smart of a guy. All I do is read. I just read shit. It's surprising how much that puts you ahead of, like, the average person. Because here's the thing for you guys. As I said, like, I'm gonna get you addicted on me like George Floyd was addicted on fentanyl. Okay. Every time you ask me a question, I'll not only give you an educated take, I'll give you a very unique perspective that you haven't heard before. You can go to anybody on Twitch. After my stream ends in like an hour, go to any other political streamer, ask them the same question. I guarantee you they'll roughly give you the same answer. Any one of these streamers. Because no one on this godforsaken website has an original thought in their lives. I'll bet money on that.
Or even not the German language, despite of the fact that he lives in Dresden, and think that Dresden is also part of the natural Russian interest. I try to speak with Putin in the Russian language. Bad news, he's also not understand it. And the only language Putin understands is a language of strength. If you have a story...
Do you think Hassan and Asmongold are in love with each other? No, you know what the problem is? So, the big problem in politics, especially on Twitch, Asmongold and Hassan occupy two extreme ends of a populist branch. Okay? Hassan is a left populist, Asmongold is a right populist. You'll notice this. These people will always react to each other's clips, but they'll never talk. Like, Hassan will talk a big game, but, oh, I want to debate this guy because he keeps dodging me. They will never talk. And the reason is, it's the Red-Brown Alliance, okay? It's the fascists and the communists coming together to make a deal. Against who? The liberals. The normal person, you know? The people who believe in a normal life. Because what's going to be scary for their audiences is if they ever talk, they will end up agreeing with too many things. Like, Hassan thinks corporations and billionaires are the problem. That's their out-group. That's the group they've said the problem. And for Asmongold's audience, it's the immigrants and the far left. So they've got groups. And it all ends up to hating liberals. That's the common thing they share. They're too shy to see each other. Yeah. No, it's not about shyness. They avoid each other on purpose because they've got, like, echo chambers. Like, if you go to Hassan's chat or Asmongold's chat, it is putrid how much every single person in that chat say just the same things. There's not a... They've killed original thought in their chat rooms. It's like an indoctrination cult. So, like, if they ever talk, it just will never... It'll break the echo chamber. That's, like, the main reason. Have you ever seen the Meat Canyon? I've seen it. It's fucking hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, Meat Canyon does some really funny shit. I think that shit was real. It happened in real life. All Meat Canyon was animated. It happened in real life, everything.
Wrong position, you will reach the results.
And they're really into each other, true.
Putin feeding with your fear, and you lost the battle. That would be my words to the president-elect. Point number 3. Please don't be afraid of Russian defeat. Don't listen this blackmail that, okay, it would be house, it would be bad with the nuclear. No, don't be afraid of Russian defeat. And last, don't be afraid of Ukrainian victory.
Also, obviously I don't know much about the Russian political climate like you do, Ganju. But, like, if Russia was to lose this war, do you think Putin will be ousted and something else can come in place, or do you think it's going to be business as usual? That Putin will somehow keep control or whatever? Because I think, like, losing this war will be really bad for him, politically, obviously. But I'm not too sure. Probably not, yeah. Because he's got a very tight control of the Russian political climate. Because, like, Navalny was, like, the only real opposition. And he's gotten rid of him, obviously. I don't think there's any strong opposition against Putin right now.
Because that would be very great things. I think for the first meeting, that's enough.
I'm afraid I'm going to give you one more question.
Please,
all right?
At your service.
Lose the war is like agree to give back all Ukrainian territory. Yeah. Well, yeah. As I said, like, I think if was the Ukrainians at this rate, they're winning the war. Because because Russia will never totally mobilize because it'll be political suicide for Putin. So I guarantee you the main things in the peace deal will be Ukraine has to get back Crimea, renouncing all claim on Ukrainian land, and joining NATO. Those will be the 3 big things in the peace deal. So yeah.
The Biden administration has been famously timid in providing arms to Ukraine. This picks up upon one of your points, because they've been intimidated by Putin's nuclear bluster. Despite the West many times passing Putin's red lines, there are some loud supporters of President-elect Trump who have likewise been intimidated by Russia's nuclear threats. How do you evaluate Putin's use of the nuclear card?
Just as simple.
Russia take the land corridor to Crimea as for the major feats in the war. Yeah. yeah, like I think the biggest gains they've had already can sell this as a win. Yeah, that's fair. Like, yeah, you know what, you might be right. Like, even if Russia does lose the war and they lose all the territory, they can do propaganda to their people and say, hey, we did all this, but we're just gonna give the Ukrainians back the land so we can find peace or whatever. They could probably spin it something like that. It sucks, but Putin will probably end up doing that because most of the population's already indoctrinated. So what are you gonna do? It's kind of hard, man. I honestly feel so sad for people like you, like Russian liberals, because you guys have just been fucked ever since the October Revolution. It's just never been fun for you. It's just never been fun for you.
And empty attempt of blackmail. Very Putin style. But I already answered this question when I said, please don't believe Putin. Same when he tried to blackmail the whole world with the nuclear weapons. Putin have a fully understand and have no illusion that immediately when he uses the nuclear weapons, he will stop exist.
If war ends right now, it's totally not going to be devastating loss at all. Yeah, like like objectively speaking, the real thing that's going to hurt Russia is they've isolated themselves from the global community. They've taken a big economic hit. Like you guys, like once the war is over, and if you don't win, like you guys are gonna be economically destroyed because of how much money was pumped into the military and how much of the economy that encompasses because of the war. That's like a long-term economic effect. And then probably the last thing being that, like Russia's trade relations and like because Russia sold a lot of its gas to Europe, but now that's gonna stop. So Russia will need to find new markets to sell to, which there's not many people. Like China's like the only one in. Where is it?
Don't trust China. China is asshole.
Like China's not an ally of Russia. It's just that China and Russia hate the same people. That's it. So like, I feel bad for you guys in Russia because like, truly like, if Russia had become a liberal democracy after Yeltsin, which I don't think was possible, there was too many people who wanted to bring Russia into a certain direction. Like. Russia allying with the West was the best thing that could have happened. Nobody wanted a wasteland after. Yeah. Like this war, the only people who have benefited from this war is like China. Because they were able to pull Russia into their sphere of influence. Like what's funny is that Russia went from a great power to becoming almost a subject of China, with how much they're economically tied with them. Like now. Because it's the only big market they have left to sell shit to.
And we should deliver absolutely crystal clear and loud message to him. Believe me, this is the most effective thing.
Okay, thank you. So you're the president, and I'm just the former ambassador, so you win the tug of war here on the stage. And we'll turn to audience questions. So if anyone in the audience wants
You're ambassador, I'm former president. So.
We have an open mic there. Just get up to the mic, and the first one there gets the first question. And please identify yourself, please.
Michael Wisher, I'm with The Insider. Can you hear me?
A little bit closer to the microphone, a little bit louder.
Michael Wisher, I'm with The Insider. You mentioned the fact that there had been arms deliveries to Ukraine before February 24th, 2022. You mentioned the NLAWs, Stingers, Javelins. The Russians, of course, knew that these were being delivered. And one reason we know this is because on February 21st, at the infamous Security Council meeting, Sergei Shoigu talked about how the Ukrainian military was preparing for war.
Shoigu Z!
They also knew that we had their plans because they had been showing them on their own television, with the routes from Belarus and everything. On February 23rd, you were interviewed by Yaroslav Trofimov of the Wall Street Journal, and you warned him that the invasion was going to start sometime after 4 a.m. I have several other friends who got calls like that. Absolutely. Everyone who was reasonably well connected in Kyiv knew the invasion was starting, knew that the Ukrainian military was ready, knew that there were javelins and NLAWs and Stingers. But the Russian soldiers, who were woken up in the middle of the night, stripped of their cell phones, and sent into Ukraine, were not told where they were going. Did anybody think that was weird?
Excuse me, are you a journalist? You should make a special investigation of what's going on 2 weeks before 24th of February. And I would happily give you all information I have. I like your style. First time when I have a floor in the parliament was September 2021. This is easy to check. And I said immediately we should give 60 billion hryvnia to the armed forces because the Russian aggression is unavoidable. Stop spending money on the велике будівництво, крадівництво, great building program, and finance the armed forces. In the most combat brigade, you have less than 50% of the soldiers. Your soldiers receive their salary less than the security in the market.
Russia-China relationship are about selling sanctioned oil for dirt. Yeah, as I said, like the only person who benefited from the Russia-Ukraine war was China because they got a subject economy in Russia. Because Russia has no choice but to sell their stuff to China because there's no other big market. Because the only big markets they had access to was Europe and America, and they're now cut off from that long term. Even after this war, like the West is not going to engage with Russia economically because they know now not to be self-reliant on Russian energy sources. So like now Russia's only choice is China, and since China has the leverage that Russia can't sell to anybody else, they can basically ask for any price, and Russia has to accept it.
You do not have an arm jacket. You do not have a Kevlar helmet because the person who should supply was under the political pressure and arrest. At the end of the day, country is not ready for the Russian invasion.
India was a market. Yeah, well, to be fair, India did a lot of like reselling. So they took Russian oil, refined it, and then sold that refined crude oil to Europe specifically. But yeah, like it was a big debacle. It's the reason why when the India-Pakistan war happened, no one helped them because like they chose a side. They said, "Hey, we're gonna make profit out of the war," and obviously that fucked them over diplomatically. To the end of 2024, 2025, Europe are in fact but yeah, they were still buying Russian oil because you can't just like swap like that to a new energy source. It takes time. But I think now it's really cut back before the start of Middle East. Yeah, like no, like ever since the Ukraine war started, Europeans are already having the conversation to swap off Russian gas and oil, but you can't do that immediately. It takes like a year or two to even start getting the infrastructure in place to. Because I think the French, when the war happened, they started talking to like Algeria and Morocco for gas, because North Africa has a lot of gas deposits that Europe can use, and I think they started talking about to Azerbaijan for oil. Which is why Georgian EU membership is a discussion that's starting to happen. Actually, like Simon, you probably know more about this since you're more keen into EU stuff. But I'm pretty sure isn't Georgia supposed to be like the new, like at least it's speculated to be a new EU member? Because I'm pretty sure there are conversations around that.
We need to deliver Stugna anti-tank directly to the possible target. Instead of that, they start to demine Chongar. Nobody can understand why it's happened. Me, as a president, put 3 brigades on the administrative border of the Crimea. They will withdraw. The fake story that one of the soldiers who tried to connect the mines and blast the bridges, this is not true because the mines was checked 6 times a day and have a triple system for the insurance. Okay, everything else I reserve for our future book. But the conclusion, country was not ready for the war.
Okay, we'll take a second question from that.
And now is the most important thing. Poland is not ready for the war. Romania is not ready for the war. Bulgaria is not ready.
I will say he's kind of wrong here. Poland has been ready for war for a while. They've spent a lot of their military in a percentage of GDP for a long time. But obviously Poland can't fight off Russia by themselves. So he's right in the total thing because most EU countries aren't ready for war, but Poland specifically is pretty ready. Georgia is very unlikely to be allowed into the EU. There are some weird rules that you actually have to border in EU territory to even be considered, but I'm not saying it is impossible, but it's very unlikely right now. Yeah, I know that Macron floated the conversation because I think he was trying to say that because the Black Sea touches an EU country, technically Georgia counts, and because Georgia would eventually lead to Baku, and Baku, that oil can then flow to Europe. Through Batumi, the port the Georgians have. It's a pretty well developed port, so I don't see why it couldn't be exported from there. But yeah, let me just search this up actually, because I know the story was floated in 2024, 2025. Did the EU consider Georgia as a member? Oh shit! Oh, this is March of 2022. Yeah, so this is actually pretty early on. So yeah, in March 2022, Georgia formally applied for EU membership. December 2023, the EU granted. I'll bring this up here. The EU granted Georgia formal candidate status on the condition that it implemented specific democratic and judicial reforms. October 2024, the European Council paused the accession process. The EU cited serious democratic backsliding and controversial legislation such as the Foreign Agent Law as a reason to halt. In late 2024, the Georgian government announced the suspension of its EU accession efforts. 2025-2026, the European Commission classified Georgia as a candidate country in name only, noting... Okay, so basically, like, Georgia's kind of an authoritarian place currently, in consideration to the EU. So they've decided maybe we should just put a stop on that for now, but keep them in the candidate list. Can Kazakhstan be a potential EU member if they have a chunk of territory in Europe geographically? I think you can make the argument if like Azerbaijan ever joins, like through the Caspian Sea, Kazakhstan could be a member. President Macron is trying to create a sort of like a secondary EU type group. Yeah, I think because there's already correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, but I know in the EU it's like 3 tiers. There's like you're completely part of the political and economical body. Then there's a second one which is like you use the euro and you're part of the economic zone, but you're not part of like the political body. And then there's just the people who are part of the economic zone, like Norway, Switzerland, and well, now Britain has to reapply for that, but they have no like seat in the table or whatever. So I think maybe like Macron and I think the EU, they should loosen maybe their rules when it comes to just joining the economic zone, because it's just beneficial for everybody in the EU, type of thing.
For the war. Slovakia not ready for the war. And, sorry for saying that, US is not ready for this type of the war. Same way, like I said, in September year 2021, please, that would also be part of the advice to the president-elect.
Thank you. Okay. Please,
Prepare your economy for the war. You should switch it to the military rail. There does not exist any more important thing than security. Your artillery shell should cost 400.
Switzerland, Norway are part of a group called the Free Traders Europe, but I might be mixing up the name, but they're part of another group who follow the EU rules, but not. Yeah, because I know the economic zone is much more looser. Like you're not politically, like I don't think you have to do that many like law reforms or legislation reforms to actually join it. It's just more like you just have to make a long-term commitment to meeting EU economic standards. So it's a little bit easier to do because it's just economic legislation you have to pass. But yeah, like I know Switzerland and Norway like are just part of the, because like obviously Switzerland is like a chronically neutral state, so they just want to do like what do you call it, like economic stuff, because obviously the common market, like I'm sorry, like you can be as Eurosceptic as possible, but like the EU common market is just objectively better than being in a market by yourself. That is just like a fact. If you deny that, you're missing brain cells, objectively.
Dollars, not 6,000. And that's possible with a massive production. Prepare your armed forces for the war. Because while we win the first stage of the war, because our troops has a combat experience, Russian not. And I know what does it mean for us when I was Supreme Commander-in-Chief in the year 2014. Prepare your armed forces for the war. And third, please prepare your people. You should be more responsible, more united, because again,
I think Montenegro is the next country to actually fully join the EU. Yeah, I know a lot of the Balkan countries, like, because the Balkan states have a bit of a reputation, let's put it like that. It was harder for them to get into the EU because they had to do a lot of, I think Bulgaria and Romania, they applied like for 10 years and then they finally got in because they finally got their stuff in. European Free Trade Association, EFTA. This is the name of the thing I was... Okay. Were you hating Hassan before he's... Yes. No, I've been a Hassan hater for a long time, okay? I'm not like these new gens. Like, I'm not a new gen Hassan hater. I've hated him way before his dog shocking, okay? Like, I want you to understand, I am the better Hassan hater. I don't hate Hassan because he's shocked his dog. I hate Hassan because he's politically retarded. We are not the same. We are not the same.
and unity and democratic resilience in year 2022 play.
I just hate tankies in general. Like Aliana, she was in chat. Like she's a anarchist from Canada. I respect her opinion because anarchism is at least like, it's not politically viable, but at least it's not like evil. But like tankies and like these socialists, like fuck off. I would say not only politically. Do I hate Hassan personally? Not really. I'll put it like this. I would, even if it wasn't for his politics, it's not that I would like him, but I would just be like kind of neutral. I'm like, Hassan, okay, I guess. Like, whatever. If you like him, I get it. But like, yeah, like, I don't get too much into the personal stuff. The politics stuff makes me hate him the most because he's the most politically bad faith guy out there. Like he'll actively like hide his opinions whenever he's in front of media and stuff, but when he's in his Twitch chat and his Twitch streams, like he's completely like a different person. Montenegro is quite small population for the EU to bring in, yeah. But it's just like a legislation thing. It takes a while for the EU to get their stuff done. Retarded, not only politically, yeah. Like he probably is just like generally retarded. That's why he's come to retarded political positions. But like as I said, for me, it's the politics stuff is the biggest thing. Like Hassan is the communist guy who lives in a mansion in California. Yeah. Like, what are you gonna do, bro? Like Hassan is the most bourgeois communist I've ever seen in my life. He wears a lot of jewelry. He wears branded clothing. He lives in an expensive house. It's just like all in all the most blatant like oxymoron that's ever existed in planet Earth ever.
Very important. Thank you. Okay, please identify yourself.
Ariel Cohen, Вітаю, пан президент.
Мої шанування.
And I'm going to ask two difficult questions, if you allow me.
One.
They're connected.
No, one difficult and one easy. That would be a compromise.
The first one is about the counteroffensive of 23. We all hoped here that it'll be a successful counteroffensive, that the Russian troops...
He's living like Karl Marx. True. He is living like Karl Marx. Like, this is not even a controversial thing. This is just a fact. Friedrich Engels was a bigger communist who, even though he owned a factory, Friedrich Engels was a bigger communist than Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a bum, okay?
Of Ukraine will be dissected in two, and that will be the beginning of the turning point of the war. But the signaling, we knew where the offensive was going to be. We knew that the Russians had deep echelon defense, and what happened. Why is that? And the second is what you mentioned before. The human resources of the Ukrainian military now are smaller than Russia's, shall we say. How do you solve this problem? But even as a business executive, you know that if you have production and machines, that you need people to man these machines.
What do you think? What question is difficult? What is easy?
Your choice, sir.
Yeah. Choose the one you want.
Thank you very much, and we all very much admire Ukrainian people and Ukrainian effort. Thank you.
Thank you. This is important. For the counteroffensive operation in the year 2023. First, why the Kharkiv offensive operation was successful? Because you do not know when it happened and where it happened. And why the counteroffensive was not successful in the year 2023? Because you know when it happened and where it happened. Absolutely crystal clear answer. Do you know what does it mean, Surovikin line? At the place when everybody knows that the offensive operation would take place in Orekhovo, can you imagine that they built 25 kilometers minefield, dragon teeth, fortification, and many, many other things? The whole Russia built 80 kilometers of the fortification, and they do it in 2 weeks. Like that. And then we do not cancel the counteroffensive operation because it publicly declared. That was an element of PR. We have a 9th brigade of the offensive operation, not from the armed forces, but from the National Guard. Come on. Part of the troops was moved to Bakhmut instead of the concentration.
Marx and Engels both were bourgeois. No, they were. But like, Marx was a bum. All right, he never had the choice of being bourgeois. Friedrich Engels had a factory, and he actively gave decent working conditions to his people. He had something, and he actually did something with it. He actively he did what he believed, if that makes sense. Whereas like Marx was just a bum. Was just a bum who's living off of Friedrich Engels and writing his like cringe ass manifesto. All right, at least Friedrich Engels, like he had a factory and he like actively like did what he preached. Okay, like don't get me wrong, they're both stupid as fuck, but at least Friedrich Engels like lived what he preached.
Attack on the Zaporizhia. Okay, better. My recommendation: invite the general, who then participated in the planning of this operation, and how they were with the tight hands, not have enough artillery shells, not have enough tanks, absolutely not have drones, and many other. But this is not interesting. We need to learn how to fight with a new condition, and that was very heavy lessons for us. That's answer why the Kharkiv operation was successful and counteroffensive was.
Rip Engels, you would love EU working conditions. True, he would, dude. Like, if you were to like reincarnate Marx and Engels, Marx would be like, "Who the fuck is this Hassan guy?" And Engels would be coming, watching the EU like being a thing in general. Marx was very good at pointing a problem, but I prefer Edward Bernstein, who revised their ideas for a modern. I swear I've heard of this Bernstein guy. Because he's leading like a new not communist, but like a socialist movement. I think he's an American, isn't he? No, German. Oh, I'm thinking about someone else, sorry. Yes, yeah, the SPD was like a pretty decent movement. Too bad the big N words got stopped any of that progression, right? Yeah, I'm thinking about. I think it's Matt Bernstein. He's like a different guy, but he's in America, and he's probably one of the few sane socialists I've seen. He still has socialist ideals, but he's not also stupid as fuck. He understands that. Like he's trying to like bring socialism in a democratic sense, not like using propaganda or like talking points to bring it through. Jeffrey Bernstein. Let me just. No, not Jeffrey Bernstein. It's someone else. I think it's Matt Bernstein. Matt Bernstein. No, not this guy. It's definitely not this guy. I'm thinking of someone else. Fuck. I wish I could remember the guy's name because he was pretty intelligent and he kind of knew what he was talking about. Can you please search the name the Beatles' main producer? Okay. Yeah, Ever Bernstein was a student of K. Marx and saw the Cause I think what's funny is because Das Kapital, was it Das Kapital? It had like multiple like chapters or whatever, or I don't know if it's chapters or like there were different books. I think the third book was made by him. And what's funny is I think he got clowned a lot for it, but it was just him reinterpreting the current material conditions to like what Marx's world was. Because like remember when Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, the Industrial Revolution was just taking place, so a lot of like the workers' rights abuses were like happening because there was no regulation made and no one knew the environment of how to operate within this new industrial system. But like by the time Bernstein was alive, it was like capitalism started reforming, poor laws were being implemented, factory conditions were being implemented, child labor was slowly coming out of practice. So like yeah. Beatles' main producer. Let's search this up. Beatles' main producer. So George Martin. How does the fifth Beatle? Oh, I think I know about this fifth Beatle stuff, yeah.
I can say less successful. Sorry for that. I will take it. The second question was personnel.
The Russian advantage in personnel. In other words, how does this affect what you do?
Yeah.
Wasn't it George Martin? I just searched it up. The Beatles producer name. It was George Martin, it said. Beatles producer. Because it said George Martin. Is something specific I should be looking at? Non-John. Well, who is it then? Brian Epstein. Okay. let me search him up. Okay, I see. He was also born in 1906. He died in 1967. Believe it or not. Oh no, wait, no, this is the Beatles. Sorry, my bad. I apologize if we got a bit too philosophical. No, don't worry about it. It's philosophy and like politics basically pretty much marry up, so it doesn't really matter. I stopped caring about philosophy once you start getting into stuff like into like moral realism and anti-realism. Like that shit's cringe and gay, and I never wanted to fucking touch it with a 10-foot pole because that's a whole different science. And I'm an economics chud, Okay, I'm a big economics autist, so I could not give a fuck about philosophy. But like, yeah, talking about like political philosophies, like that's whatever. Like Nietzsche, Marx, Ayn Rand, like people like that, like that's pretty much up for discussion. The Epstein created the Beatles.
We should stop using the people of Ukraine as an instrument for the meat storm operation. For us, every soldier is the most valuable resources. More important than the tank, plane, rocket, and everything.
Also, this is a bit of a disclaimer. For me, my good faith analysis for socialism ends at social democracy and democratic socialism. Okay, if you're an illiberal socialist or you're a tanky or whatever, like I'm sorry, I don't even entertain those conversations because like, if your whole ideology is about the people's will, but you're not willing to actually get your ideology implemented through democracy and the vote and getting the people to actually vote you in, you're stupid as fuck and you're just trying to bring in a totalitarian regime.
I don't have any motivation that if successful Russian attack take us out from some forest, we should, because of the fact that anybody afraid to report on the top that we are losing this forest, send the...
Nope, Hassan is not a social democrat. That guy is a tanky through and through. He is a blatant communist. Like, he talks about, like, nowadays, he talks about militant labor on his streams. Like, I'm sorry, that guy is not he's not even close to a social democrat. Not even close. I think if you were to go to his chat right now, I don't know if he's streaming right now, but if you were to go to his chat when he's streaming and ask him if he's a social democrat, he will laugh at you. I guarantee you. I'm willing to put money on that.
Just without, they called it Zustrichny B.
Because like
you understand what I mean.
When you look at these tanky types and a lot of these like hardline communists, for them, social democracy and democratic socialism are like just, they think it's capitalist tools to like release the pressure of like labor militancy and class consciousness. That's what they truly believe. Or it's at least a way they downplay democratic ways of implementing socialism.
And what necessary to be done now? Do same that Russia do in the spring year 2023. First, build the effective fortification.
Were you happy when Ethan Klein sued Hassan's lackeys? I don't think content creators should be suing other people. Now, was I sad about it? No. Am I enjoying what's happening? Maybe. I'll leave my comment at that. I have a blend of liberalism and social democracy. I don't identify as a democratic socialist, but I'm not as hostile to them. But I'm opposed to communism and anarchism, fascism, totalitarian. Yeah, well, like, Simon, we're both liberals. Like, we work within the liberal frame. It's the reason why social democrats and democratic socialists are fine in my books, because they operate within the liberal framework. Like, my good faith debate stuff ends once you leave that liberal square, because at that point we're not talking about the same society. You're talking about throwing my worldview into the gutter. So you wouldn't sue someone if it's going to get you $1 million. Hey, I never said that. Okay, I just said that I have no feelings currently about the current suing stuff that's happening with Ethan Klein and all of Hassan's lackeys. Now, do I get some enjoyment out of it? That maybe I do. But keep in mind, Simon, like, you and me, like, you probably just have a more Keynesian view in the economy, that you just think the government should step in when economic conditions go down, which is like a fine view to have. Like, people forget capitalism is like socialism, where there's like a lot of flavors of it. People think that capitalism is just laissez-faire, and that's it. That's the only flavor of capitalism you can ever get. Like, interventionism exists as like a concept for capitalism, where the government comes in and intervenes at times of economic decline. Like, Keynes worked off that framework quite a bit.
Where soldiers would be directly there. Stop giving the order for the offensive operation now. The price for that, we can do that, but the price for that is enormous and have a negative results in future. Receive from the United States landmine and do the same 15 kilometers landmine who do not allow Russia to penetrate on the position. Look, I'm a politician, I'm a president, but I feel myself as a general. This is not making very much happy, but I'm absolutely confident.
The term capitalism itself is a part of communist discourse. Yeah, it is. That's like the reason why the communists talk about capitalism the way they do is because they want to set the framing and they want to set the conversation of capitalism. Like, because like if you ever tell someone you're a capitalist nowadays, you're just immediately branded as evil because capitalists have not done a good job at defending themselves. Like, capitalism comes in many flavors and shapes. There's a big variety of capitalist thought. There's many thinkers like I think what's his name, from John Adams to what's his name, something Milton, from America. He was like a big libertarian guy. Like, and there's like the Vienna School of Thought. Like, there's a whole schools of thought for capitalism. It doesn't begin and end at like paying people less and making them work shit tons of hours. Yeah, that sounds about that. Yeah. Like, again, Simon, this is why you're a loyal chatter, and I respect your opinion because you're not brain dead. Being a normal living economy for the communists is capitalism. Yeah. Milton Friedman. Sorry, I think you said Milton, but it's Milton Friedman, I think, yeah. But you remember, like, no communist economy has worked. Like, never let these people gaslight you. Like, a lot of these tankies will talk about, like, China brought a lot of people out of poverty. They only did that when they liberalized their economy. They didn't do that under a state-owned economy. So, not a single socialist economy has ever worked, period. End of story.
Ukraine ability to protect and to stop Putin.
Milton Friedman did a documentary, and it's on YouTube, about how his views on capitalism, and he went to the sweatshops and talked about how his grandmother worked in one. Yeah. China's still pretty poor. Like, remember, if you don't live in the coastal cities, you're still a peasant. Like, objectively, you still work on a farm and you're just trying to get by. Like, ironically enough, it's the hyper-capitalist special economic zones that are doing good in China. It's all the cities that allow foreign capital investment and business, which, this might surprise you guys, isn't exactly a very communist thing. So, like, never let a communist gaslight you. There's not been a single good economic miracle that's come out of communism, period. Whether it was the Soviet system, whether it was the Chinese system, whether it was the Cuban system, whether it was the Angolan system, whether it was a system in Mozambique, whether it was the Indian license Raj when they were under their kind of socialist economy. Like, no socialist economy or state-driven economy has worked, period. China is socialist with Chinese characteristic state capitalism. Yeah, it's an oxymoron in itself.
Is guaranteed. Okay. We should simply stop to work for TV and start to work for saving the soldiers. What does it mean, save the soldiers? This is a special NATO program. Every person who mobilized to...
I'm going to hit you guys with an incoming hot take, okay? The only difference between China now and Pinochet's Chile is that China has got Chinese people in it. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. Their economy runs the same, their political framework is the same, everything about it is the same, except for the fact that China's got Chinese people. Like in Hong Kong and a few other places are great, but even with them combined... Yeah, fun fact. What framework did Hong Kong run with before they were integrated into China? Was it capitalism? Because I'm pretty sure it was. Mixed economy is the best. Yeah, remember, like, Simon, like, you need to understand, never let people gaslight you. Like, mixed economies don't technically exist. You just have, like, capitalism is an economic framework, and you just work with that. So as I said, like, interventionism is one part of the debate, laissez-faire is one part of the debate, Keynesian thought, Austrian economics, these are all different schools of thought. Like, remember, the best way to describe, like, if you really want to dumb down socialism and capitalism, socialism is the public control of the means of production. Capitalism is the private control of the means of production. Private, not meaning that, like, everybody owns something. It's just that the allocation of capital can be distributed to independent actors in the economy, whereas in a socialist system, it's all controlled by the government. And the maniac scale is far... Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. The scale for far worse is less than 20,000 annually. Yeah. In the US, it's close to 60,000, 70,000. Singapore is a better example of how it... Yeah, exactly. Even Russia, Poland, Bulgaria, something around more than... Yeah, 2 times average Chinese income, yeah. Like, remember, the only reason the Chinese are able to do things is because they just have such a big tax base that even if the people are poor, they can just mobilize so many resources. That's like the big thing.
The armed forces should guaranteed under the law have arm jacket, Kevlar helmet, radio, night Google, radio electronic warfare system parasol for protecting against drone, laser weapon, bullet. Without that, you cannot send him to the position.
Thank you.
This is also the way how to do. Okay, again, when you do the second book about the ability of Ukraine to protect, That would be another topic.
Okay, before we go to this microphone, we'll take one from our virtual audience. So this is from ex-Congressman Jim Slattery.
It's a GDP based on PPP per capita. Yeah, purchasing power is a better way of looking at it because the average Chinese person's purchasing power is pretty dog shit. Yeah, PPP is a better economic stat than GDP per capita. With GDP per capita, it doesn't really account for wealth distribution, but PPP does pretty much quite well.
What does Ukraine need to complete production of long-range missiles, and how long will this take?
I have maybe not so popular idea.
Okay, please.
We should start to produce long-range. First of all, we have an ability to produce long-range missile. For this long-range missile, we need a component. We have a technology. We need a component from all over the world.
Semiconductors.
I promise you, Russia received the component from China, and China do not supply this component to us.
Okay.
We need a different type. And where we should put the production of this long-range missile? Right on the border with the NATO member states, but not from Ukrainian side. Why don't we can put it on Polish side, Slovakian side, and have it secure production?
Okay.
But this is absolutely possible together. And the third position, we need to have a joint venture together with the NATO member state defense industry. No matter if it is American, German.
GDP based on PPP per capita in median is the closest to yeah, as I said, purchasing power, because like remember the whole point of the economy, you've got two sides. You've got your supply side and your demand side. Your supply side, the vectors you can use to understand that is stuff like interest rates, stuff like your investment pool, so like how much is in your stock market and is in your bond markets. Like you can understand that in big macro terms. But your demand side is a bit harder because your demand side comes sometimes into social science because your people's consuming consuming strategies or what trends there are going on or what foods are popular, or these are more social things, so it's kind of harder to understand. So things like purchasing power, people's purchasing power statistics, the PPP, is way better to understand what like the internal drive for demand in a market is in the economy. If I want to give a broad stroke to that, I can have a more micro conversation, but that's kind of hyper autistic.
British and many else. Why? For saving the time. We need long-range missile now. Question.
So would this be one more recommendation to the incoming administration?
That's my intellectual property.
Okay.
Let me keep at that.
Okay, that's enough for now. Okay, please.
My name is Jim Gilmore. I'm the immediate past Trump-appointed ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe at Vienna. I'm also the past governor of the state of Virginia. I might report to you, by the way, that the OSCE meeting this afternoon, Foreign Minister Lavrov was there to give a speech, as he always does at OSCE. And today, the Polish and Baltic ambassadors walked out on him at the OSCE meeting. Well, my question to you is about the will of the Ukrainian people. When I was in Kyiv in 2021 and met with about 12 cabinet ministers, the message was always the same, and that was that Ukraine would stand up relentlessly for its sovereignty and against the Russians. Now we're hearing some reports from the field and in some of the media that this advantage that you talk about in munitions and money and people is wearing down the Ukrainian people, and they are ready to compromise and ready to give up territory and ready to, because of exhaustion. My question to you is, what is the state of the Ukrainian people today in this conflict?
It is very difficult for people in Ukraine. People are tired. People are exhausted. People has a lack of money. And people has a big tragedy, psychological tragedy, because every single family has a friends, relatives, which was killed or wounded. But I don't see any opinion poll which demonstrated that Ukrainians are ready to give up, are ready to sell their territory for Putin type of peace. Why? Because if you sell the territory for the Putin type of peace, you would not have neither peace.
Would you want George Floyd as your president? Man, you really do love George Floyd, can't you? You know what? Honest to God, I would rather have George Floyd currently than the current president of the United States, because I actually unironically believe he would do a better job, because at least he wouldn't fuck with Congress, because he probably wouldn't even know what the fuck it is.
No territory. And if Lavrov go to the OSCE session, I follow the recommendation of Polish representative. Lavrov, same as Putin, is a military criminal. And I hate the idea to give a platform of OSCE to the military criminal. Undoubtedly. And another piece of advice.
I'm real George Floyd advocate more than any leftist through 2020.
In that situation, I give to the president-elect. Please, stop losing people. We cannot wait months or years, because every single night I see Shahid flying near my house. I listen in the noise of missile. Every single night, dozens of Ukrainian civilians and some of Ukrainian soldiers are killed. Stop losing Ukrainian people.
He was in fact a changed man and deserved better. True. Very true, Ganjar.
Stop losing Ukrainian territory and stop losing the time. 3 factors, my advice to Ukrainian leadership, to the NATO leadership, and how to stop it. If you ask me how can I stop, I can stop it without one single shot, without one single life of the people. It's just, you're absolutely right, one signature. And what signature we are talking about? Invitation to NATO, with the exact time when Ukraine obtained full membership to NATO. And until that time, we have a Swedish and Finnish type of the security guarantee equal to Article 5. And please, stop signing this stupid bilateral security assurance. This is nothing. Nobody needs it. And our coordinated action to say that simply there is no any alternative, how to stop the war, how to build a sustainable security situation on the continent, how to make America great again, how to return the leadership of the free and democratic world. Signature. A NATO invitation. In 2018, I was the participant of the summit of NATO in Brussels. It was under the President Trump. And I asked him, Mr. President, would you be so kind to ask these 30 leaders, who is against Ukrainian membership in NATO? And first, I'm asking you, Mr. President. And Donald said, no, I'm not against. And among this big hole, nobody rise up their hands. That's why everything or significant depend on the United States. We should use these resources.
Thank you. Okay, other question over here?
Good evening, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
My name is Katerina
Вас
Odarchik.
неймовірно прошу.
Дуже дякую. Дуже дякую. I represent SAC Group and Institute for Democracy and Development. We do a lot of research on Russian disinformation campaigns, especially on elections in Europe. And unfortunately, their tools pretty straightforward, but they're effective. For example, in Slovakia, they was pretty effective in Czech Republic and Germany. And we all explore here narratives of Russian disinformation, and all think tanks have some good work on that. But really, we haven't some practical tools to stop financing of disinformation. So generally, to stop the supply chain of money, resources, contractors to, create this disinformation in Eastern Europe and in Western Europe. And generally, with these tools, Putin can move more people to European Parliament, and it will be crucial also for stability in the region. So what tools do you see, maybe as coalition of pro-European political forces, to stop these disinformation campaigns in Ukraine, in potential peace agreements after, these agreements, and in Europe on the elections? Because on my point of view, it's crucial. Thank you so much.
First of all, it don't exist this simple decision. Don't believe. Russia provides a sophisticated technology, and we should be creative enough. I start our meeting with a message, what is the Putin purpose of the war? And I was not exactly accurate. I said that the main purpose of the war is destroy Ukraine. This is just half of the purpose. And second half of the purpose is to swift Western world.
Yeah.
To destroy unity of freedom and unity of democracy. And he is ready to spend not less money than on Ukrainian war to split and to finance. So how we can stop it? Only one way, to win the war. And you at the same time solve many questions. Election in Romania, election in Moldova, election in Austria, election in Hungary. Stop allow Putin to use the democratic instrument to destroy democracy. We should be brave and decisive enough.
Yeah, for as superior as liberal democracy is as a form of governance, liberal democracy, I swear, is the only ideology humans have created where it itself allows the instruments to destroy itself at the same time. Like, there's no other ideology in the world where it allows foreign things to come in and destroy it from the inside. Like, liberal democracy is the only form of government where you could argue to destroy that form of government.
Second position, stop using the Telegram. Please, this is not a messenger. This is FSB or KGB media platform. My proposal only...
Some people may not know what Telegram is. It's Russian social media channels.
Can you imagine that 80% of Ukrainians receive all the information from their Russian social media platform? How can it be?
That's what Leo Strauss, the founder of neoconservatism, conclusion was, that liberal democracy had seeds of its own. Yeah. It's just, like, keep in mind though, Simon, like, this is why our ideology is amazing and the best, okay? We, in our own system, have told us, hey, if you could make a really good argument, you could just get us the fuck out of here. But no one's made that argument so far. Alright, it takes actual foreign funding to even get people in place to argue for that. Alright, no one actually genuinely believes this. I refuse to believe it. Or even engage with that.
I put forward in the Parliament initiative, at least regulate this Telegram with the legislative of normal media. Stop using anonymous site of Telegram. And because of the fact that somebody from the government, from presidential office, has a multi-million Telegram channel, they said, no, we don't need it. This is irresponsible behavior for the future. And another things. All these things need money. Now it's extremely popular to speak how much it costs for US, for EU, for Great Britain, for Germany. Absolutely wrong question. Because they consider it as an assistance or even more as a charity. Very kind Western partner give the charity money to Ukraine for spending. Completely wrong. This is investment in the global and European security. And the Western democracy and the Western world cannot survive without this investment. And those who said that also some popular as a part of the Russian narrative, as you absolutely rightly said. About Ukrainian fatigue. My message, if you're tired from Ukraine, means you're tired from freedom and you're tired from democracy. Go to the North Korea. It would be much more interesting.
President Poroshenko, you have been eloquent as always. We thank you very much for your time. I think the audience appreciated the conversation. We had a standing room only crowd here in the studio and many thousands more watching virtually. So we look forward to seeing you again in Washington and perhaps repeating this. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
And let's welcome Ambassador. He did absolutely a great job. We know each other since Orange Revolution.
Before the Orange Revolution.
Sorry?
Jesus.
Okay, he participated in the Orange
No.
That's a joke, please. No, but that was good.
King.
Once again,
King. Alright. Ganju, Simon, it was amazing having you in chat. I'm super tired from work. It's already quite late here where I am. I'd love to see you guys tomorrow because I'll be streaming tomorrow too, hopefully a bit earlier than today. I'm gonna try and get my Discord up so we can I can have some like chats with you guys if I want to debate a certain topic or you guys want to bring up something to me. But I'm gonna see if I can work on that today or tomorrow. I'll figure it out. But yeah, it was a pleasure having both of you in stream. Pleasure seeing you boys, and I will see you later. Boom.